Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto possessed the gaming system of the Shadow Monarch Naruto x Hae-In x Esdeath solo leveling Akame ga kill. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. Convergence Point. The air shimmered with wrongness. Naruto crouched atop a gnarled oak that shouldn't exist in this climate, studying the anomaly through narrowed eyes. 5 years since the Great Confluence had merged 3 distinct realities, yet the boundaries remained thin in places like a no-man's land where Fire Country's lush forests gave way to the Empire's stark highlands with unnatural abruptness. His interface flickered to life, translucent blue text hovering in his peripheral vision. Text. Dimensional anomaly detected. Stability. 27%. Threat level. B+. Recommended action. Containment. Yeah, I can see that, Naruto muttered, dismissing the notification with a thought. The system, a strange gift from a dying god, still felt foreign at times, despite 5 years of coexistence. He closed his eyes, extending his senses beyond ordinary perception. A pulse of wrongness rippled through the space ahead. The tear was growing. Naruto formed a familiar cross seal, his chakra surging. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 perfect duplicates materialized beside him, each shimmering fly with dark energy that his original self never possessed before the confluence. Where once his clones had been simple copies, these shadow-infused versions now carried specialized attributes. Fan out, he commanded. Standard containment formation. The clones dispersed without reply, understanding their purpose implicitly. Naruto's gaze returned to the anomaly, now visibly distorting the air like heat waves over desert sand. Text. Nearby entity detected. Name. Unknown. Level. S rank equivalent. Classification. Hunter, solo leveling origin. Threat assessment. Minimal, non-hostile. Naruto tensed. S rank anything rarely qualified as minimal threat, regardless of what his system claimed. He extended his senses again, this time focusing on conventional detection methods, chakra patterns, scent, sound. Nothing. Whoever lurked nearby possessed extraordinary stealth capabilities. A flash of movement caught his eye, a streak of midnight blue against emerald foliage. A woman emerged from the treeline 200 meters northeast, moving with inhuman grace. Even at this distance, Naruto could discern her distinctive features: shoulder-length dark hair, a lithe physique wrapped in form-fitting combat gear, and the unmistakable stance of someone trained to kill. His interface updated immediately. Text. Identification complete. Name. Hae-In. Class. S rank Hunter. Affiliation. Korean Hunters Association, Dimensional Variant. Special abilities. Enhanced physical parameters, exceptional sensory capabilities, master swordsmanship. Notes. Known for tracking shadow-based entities, approach with caution. The woman, Hae-In, froze suddenly. Her head snapped toward his position with unsettling precision, nostrils flaring slightly. Impossibly, she had detected him despite his concealment techniques. "I know you're there," she called, her voice carrying across the distance with crystal clarity. "Your shadow reeks." Naruto suppressed a sigh. Hunters from the solo leveling dimension possessed abilities that defied conventional ninja understanding. This woman apparently could smell the Shadow Monarch's power that now coursed through his veins, a particularly troublesome talent. No point in hiding. Naruto stood, allowing himself to become visible as he leapt down from the branch, landing with deliberate lightness. He straightened to his full height, meeting her gaze across the clearing. Uzumaki Naruto, he introduced himself, omitting his more colorful titles. Konoha Specialist. I'm here about the anomaly. The woman's expression remained impassive, but her hand drifted to the sword hilt protruding over her shoulder. That thing you call an anomaly is spewing shadow-infected beasts across 3 provinces. I've been tracking them for days. Then it seems we have aligned interests. Naruto kept his tone neutral, taking a measured step forward. Though I'm more concerned about the tear itself than its products. Hae-In's nose wrinkled slightly. You would be. You carry the same stench. The accusation hung between them, sharp and dangerous. Naruto had encountered this reaction before from those who'd survived the shadow incursions in their original world. To them, his power represented everything they had fought against. "I'm not your enemy," he said simply. "Whatever you smell, it doesn't control me." "That's what they all say," she replied, right until the shadows start pouring from their mouths. Before Naruto could respond, his clone's memories flooded back as one dispelled itself, a warning. Something was approaching from the anomaly's direction. Something big. "We've got company," he warned. Turning toward the distortion, my clone detected multiple entities emerging from the rift. Hae-In's demeanor shifted instantly from suspicious to focused. "How many?" "7. No, 8. Naruto processed the clone's final impressions. "Hybrid types. Shadow-infected, but with chakra pathways. Someone's been experimenting." The hunter's sword whispered its sheath. A beautiful curved blade that caught the filtered sunlight. "These beasts don't normally have chakra systems. That would make them intelligent," Naruto finished. "And far more dangerous." The distortion rippled violently, and the first creature emerged, a grotesque fusion of shadow matter and what appeared to be a former human. Its torso retained humanoid features, but limbs had elongated serrated appendages that dragged along the ground. Where a face should have been, only a swirling vortex of darkness remained, occasionally forming mouth-like shapes that emitted no sound. Naruto's interface flashed urgent notifications. Text. Hostile entity detected. Classification. Shadow-infected human modified. Threat level. A rank. Weaknesses. Light-based attacks, disruption of shadow core located in chest cavity. Warning. Experimental subject, unpredictable abilities. 7 more creatures followed, each uniquely deformed but bearing the same shadow corruption. They moved with disturbing coordination, immediately spreading out to surround the clearing. "They're flanking us," Hae-In observed, back shifting slightly toward Naruto. A tactical choice rather than one born of trust. "They're hunting," Naruto corrected, forming hand seals in rapid succession. "And they're being controlled." Wind chakra gathered around his palm, compressing into a tight spiral. Unlike his traditional Rasengan, this variation incorporated shadow energy, causing the ordinarily bright blue sphere to swirl with streaks of darkness. "Shadow style. Spiraling void," he murmured, the technique fully forming in his hand. Hae-In glanced at his technique, eyes narrowing. "You're using shadows to fight shadows." "Fight fire with fire," Naruto replied with a grim smile. "Besides, I understand their nature better than most." The creatures attacked in unison, leaping with inhuman speed. Hae-In became a blur of motion, her sword tracing lethal arcs through the air. The blade sliced rough the first creature's extended limb, causing it to dissolve into particles of darkness. Naruto thrust his spiraling void forward, catching one creature mid-lunge. The technique didn't just cut, it devoured, absorbing the shadow energy while dispersing the physical components. The creature shrieked, a sound like metal scraping against stone, before collapsing into itself. Text. Shadow extraction available. Subject quality. C rank corrupted. Extraction recommended. Number. Naruto dismissed the prompt. These weren't natural shadow beings but corrupted experiments, worthless to his army. 3 more creatures converged on him. Moving with eerie synchronization, Naruto sidestepped the first, palm striking the second with chakra-enhanced force, while his remaining clones engaged the third. Each movement was precise, economical, revealing the years of experience that had tempered his once reckless fighting style. Across the clearing, Hae-In moved like water given form, her sword an extension of herself. She dispatched 2 creatures in rapid succession, her expression never changing despite the exertion. If Naruto fought like a force of nature, unpredictable and adaptable, then she fought like mathematics. Each cut precisely calculated for maximum efficiency. The remaining creatures pulled back, regrouping at the edge of the anomaly. Their shadow components seemed to pulse in rhythm with the dimensional tier. "They're drawing power from the rift," Naruto observed, positioning himself beside Hae-In. "We need to close it." "And how do you propose we do that?" she asked, sword still raised. "I hunt. I kill. Dimensional repair isn't exactly my specialty." "It's mine." Naruto formed a new set of hand seals. "Cover me." This will take approximately 2 minutes. 2 minutes with those things. She snorted. You'll be dead in 20 seconds. Then I guess you'll have to be very good at your job, he replied with a hint of his old grin. Before she could protest further, Naruto planted his feet firmly and closed his eyes. Complex sealing formulas began to materialize around him, glowing symbols that combined ancient ninja techniques with the shadow system's unique properties. The creatures sensed his intentions immediately, howling in unison as they charged. Hae-In cursed under her breath but moved to intercept, her blade becoming a silver barrier between the shadow monsters and Naruto's concentration. Metal clashed against chitinous limbs as Hae encountered the first wave of attacks. She moved with precision born from years of monster hunting, each strike targeting vital points. When one creature flanked her, she kicked off a tree trunk, inverting midair to slice through its shadow core before landing gracefully. 30 seconds, Naruto murmured, the sealing array expanding around him. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he channeled chakra into increasingly complex patterns. Behind you, Hae-In shouted, unable to disengage from her current opponents. Naruto's eyes remained closed, but a small smile curved his lips. I know. The creature lunging at his back suddenly collided with an invisible barrier, one of Naruto's shadow clones revealing itself, hands locked in a protective seal. 2 more clones materialized, engaging the flanking enemies while the original continued the sealing process. Hae-In dispatched another creature with a diagonal slash, momentarily creating space to assess the situation. Your clones smell different from you, she noted with surprise. Less tainted. They carry only fragments of the shadow power, Naruto explained, eyes still closed. 1 minute remaining. The anomaly pulsed violently, expanding as if in protest of Naruto's efforts. From within its depths, something much larger began to emerge, a creature 3 times the size of the previous ones, with multiple limbs and a body composed almost entirely of writhing shadows. Hae-In's eyes widened slightly. We have a problem. I can see it, Naruto replied, despite his closed eyes. Through his clone's vision, he monitored the battlefield while maintaining focus on the sealing array. It's an anchor entity, keeping the rift open deliberately. The massive creature fully emerged, revealing a vaguely insectoid form with glowing red patterns running along its shadow substance body. Unlike the mindless aggression of the smaller creatures, this one surveyed the clearing with evident intelligence. Text. Warning. S-rank threat detected. Classification. Engineered Shadow Monarch Proxy. Threat assessment. Immediate evacuation recommended. Note. Entity shows signs of deliberate creation. Not a natural occurrence. Naruto's eyes snapped open, the sealing array still incomplete around him. This isn't a natural anomaly, he stated, voice hardening. Someone created this rift deliberately, and that thing is maintaining it. Hae-In retreated to his position, blade dripping with shadow essence. Created how? By whom? That's what we need to find out. Naruto abandoned the sealing technique, instead drawing directly on the Shadow Monarch's power. Darkness flowed around him like liquid night, responding to his will. Change of plans. We need to capture that thing, not kill it. Hae-In's expression tightened with disgust as Naruto's shadow aura manifested. You're using that power openly now. When necessary. Naruto extended his hand, shadow energy coalescing around it. Unless you'd prefer to die with principles intact. The massive entity charged, moving with impossible speed for its size. It collided with Naruto's shadow barrier, the impact sending shockwaves through the clearing. Trees splintered and the ground cracked beneath their feet. Arise, Naruto commanded, his voice layered with otherworldly resonance. From his shadow, spectral forms emerged, 3 shadow soldiers he had extracted from worthy opponents in previous battles. Unlike the corrupted creatures they faced, these shadows retained their humanoid form, armored in obsidian plates with glowing blue eyes. Hae-In stepped back involuntarily. You command them, she whispered, the revelation clearly disturbing her. Just like the monarch did. With one critical difference, Naruto replied, directing his soldiers forward. I remember what it means to be human. The shadow soldiers engaged the massive entity, their coordinated attacks forcing it back toward the rift. Though individually weaker, their synchronized assault created openings in the creature's defenses. Its core is protected, Hae-In observed, professional instincts overriding her discomfort. Multiple layers of shadow matter surrounding it. Naruto nodded. Can you pierce through if I create an opening? 3 seconds. That's all I need. Then you'll have 3 seconds. Naruto formed a modified tiger seal, channeling chakra into his shadow soldiers. They responded immediately, changing formation to surround the entity from 3 sides. As they attacked simultaneously, the creature was forced to divide its attention. Now, Naruto shouted, his shadow aura surging forward like a tidal wave, temporarily immobilizing the entity. Hae-In moved with breathtaking speed, her sword glow wing with a light that cut through shadow matter like paper. She drove the blade directly into the creature's center mass, twisting with practiced precision to expose the core without destroying it. Got it, she called, leaping back as the entity thrashed in pain. Naruto was already weaving signs, shadow and chakra intertwining in complex patterns. Sealing technique. Shadow prison. Tendrils of darkness shot forth from his hands, wrapping around the exposed core and extracting it from the creature's body. The remainder of the entity collapsed, its substance dissolving without the core to maintain cohesion. The floating core, a pulsing orb of condensed shadow energy interwoven with what appeared to be a mechanical device, struggled against Naruto's technique before finally being subdued and drawn into a special sealing scroll. As the core was contained, the dimensional rift began to contract naturally, its anchor removed. Within moments, the anomaly had shrunk to a fraction of its former size. Naruto completed the sealing technique he'd begun earlier, closing the remaining rift with methodical precision. As the last symbols flared and faded, the distortion vanished completely, leaving only scorched earth where it had been. Silence descended upon the clearing, broken only by the distant calls of birds returning to the area. Naruto's shadow soldiers dissolved, returning to his shadow as he released his hold on them. Hae-In remained poised for battle, her sword still drawn. What was that thing? And don't tell me you don't know. It was engineered, Naruto replied, examining the sealed scroll that contained the core. A hybrid technology combining shadow matter with something mechanical. Someone wanted this rift open for a specific purpose. Someone like you. Her accusation carried less heat than before, tempered by having witnessed his actions. Naruto met her gaze directly. If I wanted rifts open, I wouldn't spend my time closing them. Before she could respond, a slow clapping sound echoed from the treeline. Both warriors turned immediately toward the source, weapons ready. Bravo! Absolutely magnificent performance from both of you. A feminine voice called out cheerfully. Worth every penny I paid my informants to track your movements. A woman sauntered into view, her golden blonde hair catching sunlight as she moved with predatory grace. Dressed in tight-fitting attire that blended combat functionality with provocative design, she wore a confident smile that revealed slightly elongated canines. Naruto's interface identified her immediately. Text. Identification complete. Name. Leone. Origin. Akame ga Kill Universe. Classification. Former Night Raid Assassin. Abilities. Beast Transformation, Enhanced Strength, Speed, Senses. Threat Level. A rank currently non-hostile. Notes. Known information broker with connections across merged worlds. Leone. Naruto acknowledged with a measured nod. I didn't realize dimensional anomalies were part of your business model. They are when they start spitting out monsters that eat my clients. Leone stretched lazily, her movements deliberately casual yet revealing trained readiness. Besides, I'm not here about the rift. I'm here about who's creating them. Hae-In lowered her sword fractionally but remained wary. You know who's behind this. I know lots of things, Hunter. Leone's smile widened. Information is my primary currency these days. The question is, what's it worth to you? Naruto pocketed the sealed scroll. Depends on the quality of information. I've dealt with enough information brokers to know verification matters. Leone laughed, the sound reminiscent of a purr. Smart man. How about a sample then? The organization responsible calls themselves the Boundary Collective. They believe the 3 merged worlds are fundamentally unstable and should be separated again. That's public knowledge, Hae-In countered dismissively. Anyone with connections to the intelligence communities knows about the separatist factions. True, Leone conceded, golden eyes gleaming. But do you know they've established 16 ritual sites along dimensional weak points? Or that they're not trying to gently separate the worlds, but rather tear them apart violently regardless of the consequences for those caught in between. Naruto tensed. How many casualties are we talking about? Quote, current population of the merged worlds is approximately 4 billion, Leonie replied, her casual tone belying the gravity of her words. Their models predict survival rates below 30%. Ens fell as both Naruto and Hae-In processed this information. 4 billion lives, 70% casualties, genocide on an unprecedented scale. Verification. Naruto finally asked, his voice tight. Leonie reached into a pouch at her hip, extracting a small data crystal, technology from the empire that had proliferated since the confluence. Recorded meeting of their inner council, obtained at significant personal risk. Consider it a gesture of good faith. She tossed the crystal to Naruto, who caught it reflexively. His shadow briefly extended, analyzing the object for traps before he pocketed it alongside the sealed core. Why bring this to us? Hae-In asked, suspicion evident in her tone. Information like this would fetch a high price from any government. Because governments are compromised, Leonie replied, her playful demeanor fading momentarily. The collective has infiltrated every major power structure across the merged worlds. They're positioning their people in key decision-making roles, preparing for what they call the Great Separation. She gestured toward Naruto, and because he has a particular set of abilities that might actually stand a chance against what they're building. The shadow entities, Naruto concluded, they're using shadow power as a tool for their separation process. Leonie nodded. Creating controlled tiers in reality that spew monsters as a side effect. The real purpose is studying how the boundaries work so they can shatter them completely. Hae-In finally sheathed her sword, though her posture remained alert. You still haven't answered why you care. Night Raid assassins weren't exactly known for humanitarian concerns. A flash of something dangerous crossed Leonie's features before her casual smile returned. Let's just say, I've got people I'd like to keep alive in all 3 original worlds. Hard to visit them if they're dead, or if reality gets shredded between visits. Naruto sensed there was more to her motivation but didn't press. Everyone had their secrets in this new merged world, what mattered were their actions. The nearest ritual site, he prompted. Where? Leonie's expression became serious. 2 days' travel northeast, in what used to be the border between the Land of Iron and the northern province. They've established a facility beneath an abandoned mining complex. Heavy security, both conventional and shadow-based. When is the next ritual scheduled? 3 days from now. The dimensional boundaries grow thinnest during the new moon, a result of the confluence's effect on natural laws. Naruto exchanged a glance with Hae-In, a silent question passing between them. Despite their initial antagonism, they'd fought well together against a common threat. I work alone, Hae-In stated flatly, correctly interpreting his unspoken query. No, you don't, Leonie countered with a knowing smirk. You work with a team of hunters from your original world. You're only alone now because you're tracking these shadow creatures specifically. Hae-In's eyes narrowed. You've been watching me. I watch everyone interesting, Leonie replied with a wink. And you two are definitely interesting. Especially working together. Naruto intervened before tensions could escalate further. We have a common enemy and complementary skills. Temporary cooperation makes tactical sense. Agreed, Hae-In conceded reluctantly. But our alliance extends only to this specific threat. I still don't trust your shadow powers. Fair enough, Naruto acknowledged. I don't need trust, just professional cooperation. Leonie clapped her hands together. Wonderful. A shadow-wielding ninja and a shadow-hunting specialist working together. Add in my intelligence network, and we might actually stand a chance of disrupting the collective's plans. You're coming with us? Hae-In asked incredulously. Of course I am. Leonie's smile revealed her elongated canines once more. Someone needs to keep you two from killing each other before you reach the target. Quote, Naruto assessed the situation objectively. Leonie's information network would prove invaluable, and Hae-In's abilities complemented his own despite her distrust. Together, they represented a formidable team against whatever awaited at the ritual site. We leave at dawn, he decided. I need to report this to Konoha and secure authorization for cross-border operations. The Korean Hunters Association should be informed as well, Hae-In added. They've been tracking shadow incursions for months without understanding the source. Leonie stretched again, her movements fluid and deliberately provocative. Perfect. That gives me time to activate my sources near the target location. We'll need updated security patterns and personnel rotations. As they discussed logistics, Naruto's mind raced ahead to potential contingencies. If the Boundary Collective truly aimed to separate the merged worlds violently, they represented an existential threat to everyone. Who had built new lives since the confluence, including him. The Shadow Monarch's power had integrated with his chakra system so completely that a forced separation might prove fatal. Yet personal of evil remained secondary to the billions of lives at stake. One last question, he addressed Leonie. Who leads the collective? Someone must be coordinating these efforts. Leonie's expression sobered. They call him the architect. Few have seen his face and lived to describe it, but rumors suggest he's a hybrid entity himself. Someone who existed in multiple original worlds with different identities. That shouldn't be possible, Hae-In objected. The confluence merged alternate versions of individuals. No one maintains separate identities. Unless they were already experimenting with dimensional travel before the confluence, Naruto suggested, a disturbing theory forming. Someone who understood the boundaries between worlds enough to exploit the merger when it happened. Leonie nodded slowly. The few descriptions I've gathered mention snake-like features and an obsession with biological experimentation. A cold certainty settled in Naruto's gut. Orochimaru. That's one name that's been whispered. Leonie confirmed. Along with another, Drive. Stylish, an imperial scientist known for human experimentation. A merged version of both, Naruto concluded grimly. Possessing knowledge from two worlds and now pursuing knowledge from the third. Hae-In's expression darkened. If he's researching shadow powers from my world, combined with chakra techniques and imperial arms, then the shadow entities we encountered today are just the beginning, Naruto finished. Prototypes for something far worse. The three stood in momentary silence, the weight of their discovery settling around them. The dimensional rift was closed, but the larger threat remained, an organized force seeking to tear apart reality itself, led by one of the most dangerous intellects from two worlds combined into one. Dawn, then, Hae-In finally said, turning to leave. I'll make my report and meet you at the northern crossroads. Bring equipment for extended operations, Naruto advised. If we confirm the collective's presence, we may need to strike immediately. Leonie stretched once more before offering a casual salute. I'll bring the intelligence. You two bring the muscle. Together we'll bring the pain. As they separated to prepare, Naruto remained momentarily in the clearing, extracting the sealed scroll containing the shadow core. His interface analyzed it automatically. Text. Analysis complete. Object. Modified shadow core artificially engineered. Origin. Hybrid technology, solo leveling, Akame ga kill. Purpose. Dimensional anchor. Note. Contains tracking components. Recommend immediate isolation. With practiced movements, Naruto applied additional sealing techniques, neutralizing the tracking components while preserving the core for further study. This artifact may provide crucial insights into the collective's methods, and potentially their weaknesses. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Naruto gazed northward, toward their destination. 3 days until the next ritual. 3 days to prepare for a confrontation with forces seeking to unmake their world. His shadow stretched long behind him, a constant reminder of the power he carried, power had made him both uniquely qualified to face this threat and potentially vulnerable to its methods. The irony wasn't lost on him. With a final glance at the scorched earth where the rift had been, Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves and shadow, bound for Konoha to make his report and prepare for what might be their most important mission since the worlds merged. The game had begun. The hidden Esdeath village had changed dramatically since the confluence. Once hidden among dense forests, Konoha now served as a central hub where technologies and cultures from 3 worlds intersected. Traditional wooden structures stood alongside modern buildings, while screens displaying information in multiple languages lined major streets. Naruto made his way directly to the Hokage Tower, still the admin Strativ center despite the village's evolution. Civilians and ninjas alike nodded respectfully as he passed, some with admiration, others with barely concealed wariness. His status as both hero and anomaly had only intensified since acquiring the Shadow Monarch's power. Text. Detected. Concealed observer. Location. Rooftop, 37 meters northwest. Identity. Anbu Root Division. Threat level. Minimal, surveillance only. Naruto suppressed a frown. Danzo's root operatives had grown bolder in their monitoring since the confluence, exploiting the chaos of merged worlds to rebuild their influence. That they would track him so openly indicated either growing confidence or growing desperation. Neither boded well. Naruto. A familiar voice called out, breaking his train of thought. Shikamaru Nara approached, his traditional ninja attire now complemented by technology from the Empire, a data tablet and communication device strapped to his forearm. As Konoha's chief strategist for interdimensional affairs, he'd adapted quickly to merged world politics. Just the troublesome person I was looking for, Shikamaru continued, falling into step beside Naruto. We received reports of anomaly activity in the border region. Your work, I assume. Quote, the anomalies contained, Naruto confirmed, keeping his voice low. But it wasn't natural. Someone engineered it. Shikamaru's expression didn't change, but his posture tensed slightly. Hokage's office is compromised. We walk and talk. They altered course subtly, moving toward the memorial stone instead of the tower. Naruto activated a privacy barrier, a technique combining traditional ninja arts with shadow manipulation that created a field where sound couldn't escape. The Boundary Collective, he stated once they were secure, extracting the data crystal Leone had provided. They're actively working to separate the merged worlds, regardless of casualties. Shikamaru accepted the crystal, his analytical mind already working through implications. This confirms intelligence we've been gathering piecemeal. They've been recruiting scientists, ritualists, and chakra specialists across all three original worlds. Leone claims they've infiltrated governments. She's right, Shikamaru confirmed grimly. We've identified 3 council members and at least 7 departmental heads within Konoha's administration alone. Comparable numbers in other major powers. Naruto processed this sobering information. Then official channels are compromised. Any mission authorization would telegraph our intentions. Exactly. Which is why Kakashi has established a shadow operation group outside official structures. Shikamaru glanced at the memorial stone, where names from all 3 worlds had been added following the confluence. We're calling it Convergence. Fitting, Naruto remarked. Who's involved? Need to know basis only. Each operative functions independently with minimal contact. You'd be our field specialist for shadow-related phenomena. Naruto considered the implications of operating without official oversight. And when the council asks why their Jinchuriki is missing, training exercise, Shikamaru replied with a thin smile. Extended duration, classified location, standard procedure since you acquired your additional abilities. The formal detachment in Shikamaru's tone wasn't lost on Naruto. Even his closest friend, maintained a certain distance now, respect mingled with caution. The shadow power had changed more than just his abilities, it had altered how the world perceived him. I'll need equipment, Naruto said, refocusing on practical matters. And any intelligence on the northern border facility. Shikamaru nodded. Already arranged. A supply cache has been established 10 kilometers west of the northern crossroads. Recognition phrase is, shadows lengthen at dusk. Poetic. Tsunade's idea. She said subtlety isn't your strong suit, so the phrase needed to be memorable. Despite the gravity of the situation, Naruto smiled briefly. Some things remained constant even in a merged world. One more thing, Shikamaru added, his expression serious once more. We've detected unusual chakra patterns tailed beasts since these engineered rifts began appearing. Increased agitation, power fluctuations. Naruto instinctively touched his stomach, where the seal containing the 9 tails remained. Kurama has been restless. The shadow power sometimes conflicts with his chakra. Monitor it closely, Shikamaru advised. The Boundary Collective may be targeting Jinchuriki specifically. Several have reported similar symptoms. Yugito, quote, among others, she's conducting her own investigation into the connection between tailed beasts and dimensional stability. Naruto absorbed this information, adding another layer to an already complex situation. I'll maintain contact through secure channels. 3-day operation, potentially extending depending on findings. Understood. Shikamaru pocketed the data crystal. I'll brief Kakashi directly, bypass normal channels. They had reached the memorial stone. Naruto's eyes found the names added since the confluence, friends and comrades lost during the chaotic merger or in the unstable months that followed. Too many names. Too many lives disrupted or ended by forces beyond their control. The Boundary Collective's plan would add billions more. We've built something here, Naruto said quietly, gaze still fixed on the stone. Despite everything, the conflicts between different world systems, the cultural clashes, the power struggles, we've created a functioning society from 3 broken worlds. Shikamaru nodded silently, understanding the unspoken commitment beneath Naruto's words. I won't let them tear it apart, Naruto continued, resolve hardening his voice. Whatever it takes, Shikamaru echoed, the phrase carrying the weight of a vow between them. They parted without further words, Shikamaru heading toward Hokage's private residence while Naruto returned to his apartment to prepare. The Shadow Anbu operative remained on the rooftop, still watching. Naruto let him watch. Let Danzo know he was leaving. Let the old war hawk wonder what he knew. The game of shadows had many players, but Naruto possessed the greatest shadow of all. Dawn painted the northern crossroads in watercolor hues of amber and lavender. The meeting point, once a simple intersection of trade routes, had evolved into a small settlement following the confluence, with buildings representing architectural styles from all 3 original worlds. Naruto arrived precisely as the sun crested the eastern mountains, his equipment sealed in scrolls and his senses extended to detect any surveillance. The supply cache Shikamaru had harangued contained everything he'd requested. Specialized sealing materials, communication devices compatible with multiple world technologies, and detailed maps of the northern territories. Text. Detected. Approaching entity. Identity. Hae-In. Status. Alert non-hostile. Distance. 120 meters southeast. Note. Concealing presence. Advanced stealth techniques detected. Impressive. Despite his enhanced senses, Naruto wouldn't have detected her approach without the system's assistance. She moved like a ghost through the morning mist, her presence barely disturbing the air around her. Your stealth techniques have improved since yesterday, he commented when she was within earshot, not turning to face her. Hae-In emerged from the mist, expression neutral. And your sensing abilities remain disturbing. Unlike their previous encounter, she now wore specialized hunter gear, form-fitting armor that combined flexibility with protection, multiple weapons beyond her primary sword, and equipment he had Naruto recognized as being designed specifically for shadow entity containment. The Korean Hunters Association approved your mission, he asked, noting the official insignia on her equipment. Provisionally, she adjusted a strap on her armor. They're skeptical about the Boundary Collective's existence but concerned enough about the shadow incursions to authorize investigation. And their position on working with me. Hae-In's gaze was direct, unflinching. They consider you a potential asset and a potential threat. I'm authorized to terminate you if your shadow powers show signs of corruption or autonomous action. Naruto appreciated her honesty, if not the sentiment behind it. Fair enough. I'd expect nothing less. Would you actually allow it? She asked, genuine curiosity breaking through her professional detachment. If the shadows began to control you instead of the reverse, I'd insist upon it, Naruto replied seriously. I've seen what unchecked power does to people. I won't become that. Something shifted in her expression, not quite trust, but perhaps reevaluation. Before she could respond, a cheerful voice interrupted from behind them both. Ah, are you two bonding already? How adorable. Leonie sauntered into view, looking remarkably fresh despite the early hour. Unlike yesterday, she had partially activated her Imperial Arms transformation, subtle feline features accenting her appearance while enhancing her physical capabilities. Text. Detected. Enhanced combat state. Subject. Leonie. Transformation level. 25% activation. Combat capability. Increased by approximately 40%. Notes. Senses particularly enhanced. Maintaining transformation state for extended periods suggests recent improvements to ability control. You're transformed, Naruto observed. Expecting trouble already, Leonie stretched languorously. Always expect trouble, Whiskers. That's how you stay alive in our merged mess of a world. She tapped her nose. Besides, my enhanced senses picked up some interesting movement patterns about 15 kilometers north. Someone's being very careful not to be noticed. Collective operatives, Hae-In asked, immediately alert. Or refugees, smugglers, or any of a dozen other groups that prefer to avoid attention, Leonie replied with a shrug. But given our destination, I'd bet on the former. Naruto considered their options. We should investigate before proceeding to the main facility. If they're moving equipment or personnel, it might provide intelligence on what we're facing. Hae-In nodded in agreement. A forward scouting operation makes tactical sense. Then it's settled. Leonie clapped her hands together. I'll take points since my senses are strongest. Shadow Boy can provide mid-range coverage with those creepy clones of his, and our lovely hunter can watch our backs. Quote, this isn't a game, Leonie, Hae-In said sharply. The collective represents an existential threat. Leonie's playful demeanor slipped momentarily, revealing something harder beneath. Trust me, Hunter, I know exactly what's at stake. I've watched worlds die before. I don't intend to watch it happen again. The raw emotion in her voice silenced further objections. This mission had personal meaning for all three of them, beyond professional obligations or abstract concepts of duty. They departed the crossroads moving in careful formation, Leonie leading with her enhanced senses while Naruto deployed shadow clones in a wide perimeter. Hae-In maintained rear security, her exceptional awareness serving as their final defense against ambush. As they traveled northward, the landscape gradually transformed. What had once been the lush forests of Fire Country now displayed increasingly bizarre ecological adaptations, the result of flora from three worlds competing and eventually hybridizing. Trees with metallic bark stood alongside crystal formations that resembled plants, while flowers that responded to emotional states rather than sunlight dotted the undergrowth. The boundaries between worlds grow thinner here, Naruto observed as they passed a stream that flowed uphill before cascading normally again. Natural laws becoming more malleable. Perfect conditions for their ritual. Leonie confirmed. The collective seeks these boundary weak points specifically. Less energy required to force separation. Hae-In studied the surrounding anomalies with professional detachment. In my original world, these conditions would attract high-level dungeons breaks. The shadow between dimensions grows particularly thin in such places. They continued in thoughtful silence, each processing the implications of their mission from their unique perspectives. Despite their different origins and abilities, a common purpose united them, preserving the merged world that, for better or worse, had become their shared home. After 3 hours of steady progress, Leonie suddenly raised her hand, signaling a halt. Her body tensed, ears swiveling forward as she focused on something beyond normal perception. Vehicles, she whispered, approaching from the northwest. Military grade, based on the engine sounds. Naruto extended his senses, confirming her assessment. Imperial technology, heavy armor plating, designed for cross-dimensional transport. Collective, Hae-In asked, already moving toward cover. Likely, Leonie confirmed. They've been requisitioning Imperial transport technology through shell corporations. Perfect for moving equipment between ritual sites without attracting attention. They concealed themselves among a cluster of crystalline formations. Natural camouflage against both visual detection and sensor sweeps. Within minutes, a convoy of 3 armored vehicles appeared on the horizon, moving with deliberate slowness along an unmarked path. Naruto activated a specialized jutsu that enhanced his vision, focusing on the lead vehicle. Driver and front passenger are standard security types, armed with modified chakra weapons. Quote, the interesting stuff will be in the middle transport, Leonie murmured. That one's got enhanced shielding and completely blacked out windows. Hae-In narrowed her eyes, her hunter senses detecting something beyond normal perception. The rear vehicle contains shadow entities. I can smell them from here, contained, but active. Naruto processed this information quickly. We need to see what they're transporting without engaging directly. Leonie, your stealth capabilities are best suited for close reconnaissance. On it, she agreed, her transformation advancing slightly as she prepared to move. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, assume I've been captured and mount a suitably heroic rescue. 5 minutes, Naruto countered. Any longer risks discovery as they approach their destination. Leonie pouted dramatically. You're no fun. Whiskers. 5 minutes it is. She disappeared into the underbrush with impressive speed, her movements nearly imperceptible even to Naruto's enhanced senses. Our feline adaptations made her uniquely suited for stealth operations, particularly in difficult terrain. While Leonie conducted reconnaissance, Naruto created a single shadow clone to establish a perimeter alert system. The clone moved to higher ground, deploying specialized seals that would warn of approaching threats. Your control has improved, Hae-In observed quietly. Yesterday, your shadow aura leaked constantly. Today, it's contained. Naruto glanced at her, surprised by the non-hostile observation. I've been working with a specialist from your world, a hunter named Go-Gun-He who understands shadow energy. He's developed techniques to help me maintain balance. Chairman Go. Genuine surprise flashed across Hae-In's features. He rarely works directly with individuals, especially those from other worlds. He made an exception when he realized what I carry, Naruto replied. His exact words were, better to guide a potential ally than fight another monarch. Understanding dawned in Hae-In's expression. That's why the association approved this mission despite their reservations. Chairman Go is monitoring your development through me. Smart strategy, Naruto acknowledged without resentment. I'd do the same in his position. Their conversation halted as Leonie returned, moving with silent efficiency back to their position. Her expression had lost all traces of playfulness, replaced by focused intensity. Prisoners, she reported grimly. The center vehicle contains 8 people, civilians from various worlds based on their appearance. Sedated, hooked to medical equipment. Shadow infection, Hae-In asked immediately. Leonie shook her head. Not yet, but they're prepped for it. IV lines, monitoring equipment, restraints. They're being transported as test subjects. Naruto's jaw tightened, and the shadow entities in the rear vehicle, contained in specialized tanks. Different varieties, all showing signs of deliberate modification. Some have chakra pathway systems implanted. Others have what look like Imperial arms components. They're creating a hybrid army, Hae-In concluded, using these prisoners as integration test subjects. The implications were clear and disturbing. The Boundary Collective wasn't just researching dimensional separation, they were developing weapons that combined the worst aspects of all 3 worlds. We need to intervene, Naruto stated, his decision immediate. Free the prisoners, capture their research data, neutralize the shadow entities. Leonie raised an eyebrow. That wasn't the original mission parameters. We were PPOSED to gather intelligence on the ritual site. Parameters change when innocent lives are at stake, Naruto replied firmly. Besides, capturing their research data serves our primary objective. We'll learn more from their equipment than from observation alone. Hae-In nodded in agreement. The Hunter's Code is clear, protection of non-combatants takes priority. I support intervention. Leonie Street. You died them both before breaking into a genuine smile. Just testing your priorities. I'd have been disappointed if you'd chosen the mission over those people. Then we're agreed, Naruto confirmed. Leonie, your assessment of guard strength. 4 per vehicle, armed with hybrid weapons. 2 in the rear vehicle appear to have enhanced abilities, probably collective experiments themselves. 14 total, Hae-In calculated. Plus whatever automated security systems the vehicles possess. Naruto considered their options carefully. We need a coordinated approach. Leonie, your speed makes you ideal for neutralizing the drivers before they can alert the main facility. Hae-In, your expertise with shadow entities makes you the logical choice for the rear vehicle. Leaving you with the prisoner transport, Leonie concluded. Makes sense. Your shadow clones can secure multiple targets simultaneously. Remember, we need prisoners for interrogation, Naruto emphasized. And the research data is essential. Hae-In unsheathed her sword, the blade gleaming in the filtered sunlight. The convoy will reach that narrow pass in approximately 3 minutes. Ideal ambush point. Agreed. 3 minutes to prepare, then we move. Naruto formed the familiar hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu. 5 clones materialized, each immediately beginning preparations for the ambush. Two moved to establish wire seals that would prevent communications with the main facility, while the others positioned themselves strategically along the anticipated route. Leonie fully activated her Imperial arms, her transformation progressing to approximately 50%. Claws extended from her fingers, her hair lengthened and became more mane-like, and her muscles visibly defined beneath her skin. Hae-In removed specialized equipment from her pack, tools designed specifically for shadow entity containment. Her movements were precise, economical, revealing years of experience hunting such creatures in her original world. 30 seconds. Naruto announced as the convoy approached the narrow pass. Confirm targets and engage on my signal. The three positioned themselves with practiced efficiency, each focusing on their assigned objective. Despite having never worked together before, their complementary abilities and clear mission parameters created natural synchronization. Now, Naruto commanded as the lead vehicle entered the pass. Leonie exploded into motion, her enhanced speed carrying her to the lead vehicle before the guards could react. With precise strikes, she disabled the driver and passenger through the open windows. Then leapt onto the roof to engage the rear guards. Simultaneously, Naruto and his clones surrounded the center vehicle, deploying a specialized sealing technique that temporarily neutralized its defensive systems. Two clones breached the doors while Naruto himself created a Rasengan variant to cut through the reinforced roof. Hae-In moved with hunter precision toward the rear vehicle, her sword gleaming with a technique specifically designed to disrupt shadow matter. As the guards emerged with weapons raised, she flowed between their attacks like water, disabling them with non-lethal precision. The ambush achieved complete surprise, overwhelming the convoy's defenses before they could coordinate resistance. Within 30 seconds, all regular guards had been neutralized, leaving only the two enhanced individuals in the rear vehicle. Text. Warning. Enhanced entities detected. Classification. Human shadow hybrids experimental. Threat level. A rank. Caution. Unstable integration patterns detected. Potential for uncontrolled manifestation. Hae-In. The enhanced guards are unstable. Naruto called out, his system alerting him to the danger as he secured the prisoner transport. His warning came just as the two figures emerged from the rear vehicle, their forms shifting unnaturally as shadow matter erupted from beneath their skin. What had appeared human now transformed into grotesque hybrids. Their bodies partially dissolved into writhing darkness while maintaining humanoid structure. Hae-In adjusted her approach immediately, shifting from non-lethal takedown to containment protocols. Her sword traced glowing patterns in the air as she activated hunter techniques specifically designed for unstable shadow manifestations. They're too far gone, she called back, evading a tendril of shadow matter that shattered crystal formations where she had stood moments before. The integration failed. They're becoming mindless. Leonie secured the lead vehicle and moved to assist, her claws slicing through shadow matter with surprising effectiveness. These aren't like the ones from yesterday. They're falling apart. Naruto completed securing the prisoner transport, confirming all 8 captives were alive though sedated. After ensuring his clones could manage their care, he turned his attention to the hybrid threat. The two former humans had now merged into a single mass of chaotic shadow energy, absorbing matter from their surroundings as they expanded. Their form lacked the coherence of natural shadow entities, suggesting failed experimentation rather than deliberate design. They're a containment breach, Naruto realized, his system analyzing their deteriorating pattern. Not weapons, they're failed test subjects themselves. Understanding the nature of the threat clarified the appropriate response. These weren't enemies to be defeated but victims to be contained, or released from their suffering if containment proved impossible. Naruto moved forward, drawing directly on the Shadow Monarch's power. Darkness flowed around him in controlled patterns, responding to his will rather than consuming it. Arise, he commanded, his voice resonating with otherworldly authority. From his shadow, a single soldier emerged, one of his strongest extracted shadows, a former S-rank hunter who had fallen defending a civilian settlement during a dimensional incursion. Unlike yesterday's battle, Naruto manifested only this one shadow, channeling greater power into a single entity rather than dividing his focus. Containment protocol, he directed the shadow soldier, who immediately moved to engage the chaotic mass. Hae-In's eyes widened slightly at the controlled display of power, but she adapted quickly, coordinating her movements with the shadow soldiers. Together, they began herding the chaotic entity away from the vehicles and into a natural containment area formed by crystalline formations. Leonie provided support, using her enhanced ability to distract the entity whenever it threatened to break containment. Her claws couldn't damage it significantly, but her speed allowed her to redirect its attention at crucial moments. Working in concert, the three forced the shadow mass into the crystalline formation, where Naruto activated a specialized sealing array, one designed specifically for unstable shadow entities, combining techniques from both ninja arts and hunter protocols. Sealing technique. Shadow purification prison, he intoned, completing the complex sequence of hand seals. The array activated, glowing symbols encircling the chaotic mass and gradually compressing it. As the seal tightened, the shadow energy began to separate from what remained of the human components, a painful but necessary process to determine if anything could be salvaged. Hae-In stepped forward, her sword tracing additional patterns that reinforced the separation process. Her expertise with shadow entities complemented Naruto's sealing techniques, creating a more efficient containment than either could have achieved alone. There's nothing left to save, she concluded after careful analysis. The human components are too degraded. Complete purification is the only humane option. Naruto nodded grimly, understanding the implications. Complete purification meant destroying both shadow and human elements entirely, essentially euthanizing what remained of the test subjects. I'll complete the process, he stated quietly. Leonie, check the vehicles for additional threats. Hae-In, your expertise is better applied to securing the shadow entities in the rear transport. Both women recognized the burden he was assuming and withdrew without argument, focusing on their assigned tasks. Naruto modified the sealing array, transitioning from containment to purification. Find peace, he murmured as he completed the final seal. The array flared brilliantly, compressing the chaotic mass to a single point of light before dissolving it completely. Nothing remained. Neither shadow nor human component, only empty air within the crystalline formation. Naruto stood silent for a moment, honoring what had once been people before the collectives. Experiments transformed them into something unrecognizable. Then he turned his attention to the vehicles and their contents. Leonie had secured all three transports, confirming no additional threats remained. All guards are restrained, communications disabled, she reported. The vehicles, navigation systems contain coordinates for their destination, matches our intel on the ritual site. Hae-In emerged from the rear vehicle, her expression grim. 6 containment tanks, each holding a different modified shadow entity. They're attempting to breed specific traits through controlled exposure to different world elements. The prisoners? Naruto asked, approaching the center vehicle where his clones maintained watch. Stable but heavily sedated, Leonie replied. Civilians from all 3 original worlds. Selected for specific genetic markers according to the data files. They were being transported for integration testing, essentially forced shadow infection under controlled conditions. Naruto's jaw tightened. Can they be moved safely? My clones can handle it, Leonie confirmed. But we need to decide quickly. This convoy is probably expected at the facility within the hour. When it doesn't arrive, they'll send search parties. Hae-In joined them, wiping shadow residue from her blade. The shadow entities are secure for transport, but I recommend destruction rather than continued containment. They're too unstable. Agreed, Naruto nodded. But first, we extract any relevant data from their containment systems. Information on their creation could help us understand the collective's methods. Leonie was already accessing the vehicle's computer systems, her fingers moving with surprising dexterity across interfaces designed for Imperial technology. Downloading everything now. Their security is good, but they weren't expecting a field breach. The prisoners are our priority, Naruto decided. Leonie, your clones are best suited for their evacuation. Take them to the nearest Chi Coalition medical facility. The one in Tetsu City has experience with shadow exposure cases. What about our original mission? Hae-In questioned. The ritual site is still our primary objective. And we'll proceed as planned. Naruto confirmed. But we adapt to changing circumstances. Leonie's clones handle evacuation while we 3 continue to the facility with the intelligence we've gathered. Works for me, Leonie agreed. already creating several beast-transformed clones to manage the evacuation. Unlike Naruto's shadow clones, her duplicates were limited in number and duration but posses said greater physical strength, ideal for transporting injured or unconscious individuals. What about the vehicles and guards? Hae-In asked practically. Naruto considered their options. The vehicles contain valuable intelligence, but they're too conspicuous to use. We extract all data, then disable them permanently, and create a false trail, Leone suggested. Make it look like they were attacked by shadow beasts rather than an organized force. Buys us time and misdirects their investigation. Efficient, Hae-In approved. I can modify the shadow residue patterns to suggest a natural incursion rather than human intervention. They worked with practiced efficiency, each focusing on their area of expertise. Leone's clones prepared the prisoners for transport while extracting all useful intelligence from the vehicles, systems. Hae-In secured the shadow entities for controlled destruction while creating evidence of a random attack. Naruto coordinated their efforts while examining the research data they'd recovered. What he found disturbed him deeply. The Boundary Collective wasn't simply trying to separate the merged worlds, they were deliberately creating shadow-based weapons designed to survive the separation process. Weapons that could theoretically exist in all three original worlds simultaneously, controlled by whoever mastered the technology. The implications were staggering. Not just genocide through forced separation, but potential domination of whatever worlds remained afterward. They're not separatists, Naruto realized, showing the relevant data to his companions. They're conquerors. The separation is just phase 1 of their plan. Leone whistled softly as she reviewed the information. Ambitious bastards. Create chaos through separation, then emerge within. Army that can exist across dimensional boundaries. Classic power consolidation strategy, Hae-In observed grimly. Destroy existing power structures, then rebuild them under your control. The Empire attempted similar tactics in my world before the confluence. The discovery added new urgency to their mission. What had begun as an effort to prevent catastrophic world separation now expanded to include stopping a multi-dimensional conquest attempt. As Leone's clones departed with the rescued prisoners, Naruto, Hae-In, and Leone prepared to continue toward the ritual site. Their unlikely Alia, NCE had proven effective in this first engagement, complementary abilities creating a whole greater than its parts. The facility will be on high alert once the convoy fails to arrive, Leone noted as they finalized their preparations. Subtle approach no longer viable. Then we adapt, Naruto replied, his expression resolute. New objective. Infiltrate, gather intelligence on the full scope of their plan. Then disrupt the ritual by any means necessary. Hae-In nodded in agreement, her initial suspicion of Naruto's shadow powers now balanced by recognition of his control and ethical boundaries. The Hunter Association will want comprehensive data on their shadow manipulation techniques. Priority after stopping the ritual. And I want names, Leone added, her playful demeanor completely absent. Every collective leader, every financial backer, every scientist who thought experimenting on civilians was acceptable. My network can make sure none of them find peace in any world. The three gazed northward, toward a facility where forces worked to unravel reality itself for power and conquest. Despite their different origins, abilities, and personalities, a shared purpose united them, protecting a merged world that, despite its flaws and challenges, had become home. 2 hours to nightfall, Naruto observed. We move under cover of darkness. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, they departed the ambush site, leaving behind disabled vehicles and fabricated evidence of a shadow beast attack. Ahead lay a confrontation with the architects of potential genocide, and Perha. P.S. the key to understanding the forces that had merged their worlds in the first place. The convergence point awaited. Chapter 2. Frost and Tempest. Tetsu City gleamed like a blade beneath winter sun. Once the exclusive domain of samurai, this neutral ground had transformed into a diplomatic nexus after the Great Confluence. Steel skyscrapers rose alongside traditional dojos, while temperature rolled biodomes housed flora from all three merged worlds. Snow fell in precise geometric patterns, a weather anomaly unique to dimensional boundary zones. Naruto observed the city from a rooftop garden, 15 stories above street level. 3 days had passed since their convoy intervention, barely enough time to coordinate with Konoha's shadow intelligence network before receiving urgent new orders. Protect the Unity Summit at all costs. Admiring the architecture, or plotting escape routes. Temari of the Desert approached, her traditional fan replaced with a smaller, more diplomatic appropriate version. As soon as chief ambassador, she'd adopted formal attire that blended ninja practicality with political elegance, flowing robes with hidden weapon compartments, her blonde hair arranged in a single practical braid rather than her former 4-point style. Both, Naruto admitted, turning to face her. Though in my experience, diplomatic functions usually require more escape routes than architectural appreciation. She laughed, a sound both familiar and changed. The years since the confluence had matured her sharp edges into something more refined but no less dangerous. 5 years, and you're still allergic to politics. Temari joined him at the railing, maintaining a professional distance that nonetheless felt companionable. Though I'm surprised to find Konoha's shadow specialist attending a public summit. Doesn't that contradict your entire operational model? Naruto's system analyzed her automatically. Text. Identification complete. Name. Temari. Origin. Naruto Universe. P.O. Sishin. Sunagaker Ambassador to Coalition Government. Combat Classification. A rank, Wind Specialist. Relationship status. Professional ally, elevated trust level. Notes. Enhanced analytical abilities since confluence. Specialized in cross-dimensional diplomatic incidents. My attendance isn't exactly public knowledge, he replied, carefully monitoring the diplomatic complex below. Officially, I am part of the Hokage's extended security detail, generic enough to avoid attention. And unofficially, Temari raised an elegant eyebrow. Intelligence suggests the Boundary Collective may target the summit. Naruto kept his voice low despite the privacy seals surrounding the garden. 16 world leaders in one location creates both opportunity and vulnerability. Temari's expression sharpened instantly, political polish giving way to ninja focus. Confirmed intelligence or speculative threat assessment. Confirmed. We intercepted collective assets 3 days ago, convoy transporting experimental subjects and research materials. Naruto turned to fully face her, their conversation shifting from casual reunion to security briefing. Data pointed to a planned operation coinciding with the summit. Target objective, unknown. Possibly assassination, possibly demonstration of capability. Naruto gestured toward the central conference building, a marvel of merged world architecture WHER. E-polarized glass met traditional wood and stone. What better way to advance their separatist agenda than disrupting the most visible symbol of interworld cooperation? Temari processed this informa Chion with the analytical precision that had made her invaluable in post-confluence diplomacy. The Coalition Security Council should be notified immediately. They've been compromised. Naruto's words fell between them like stones. 3 confirmed collective sympathizers among the 12 counselors, possibly more at staff level. That's why Konoha sent you instead of filing official security concerns. Temari's conclusion wasn't a question. My team is operating independently, minimal communication channels, need-to-know basis only. Team. Genuine surprise flickered across her features. Quote, you've always worked alone since acquiring your additional abilities. The diplomatic phrasing wasn't lost on Naruto. Even those who knew him well tended to reference his shadow monarch powers indirectly, a polite fiction that maintained comfortable distance from uncomfortable truths. Current circumstances required specialized expertise beyond my capabilities, he explained. A hunter from the solo leveling dimension with shadow tracking abilities, and an information specialist with extensive underworld connections. Unusual companions for Konoha's most isolated operative. Temari's tone remained neutral, but Naruto detected subtle shifts in her posture, increased interest, perhaps mild concern. Unusual times, he replied simply. Before Temari could respond, her communication device CHIM'd softly, a sleek fusion of ninja scrolls and imperial technology that allowed secure messaging across dimensional boundaries. The Raikage's delegation has arrived, she reported after checking the message. They're requesting your presence specifically. Naruto's brow furrowed slightly. The Raikage knows I'm here. Apparently so. Temari tucked the device away. They're being escorted to the Eastern Reception Hall. Priority clearance. Text. Notification. Jinchuriki detected. Identity. Yugito ni 2 Tails host. Status. Stable containment integration 87% efficiency. Distance. Approximately 300 meters east. Notes. Chakra pattern shows anomalous fluctuations consistent with dimensional sensitivity. Yugito, Naruto murmured, understanding immediately. The 2 Tails Jinchuriki would have said his presence the moment he entered the city, just as he'd detected hers. The cat, Temari's use of the coded reference confirmed her clearance level regarding Jinchuriki matters. I'd heard rumor. She was conducting independent research on tailed beast reactions to dimensional phenomena. Not just rumors. Naruto moved toward the exit, Temari falling into step beside him. All Jinchuriki have experienced increased instability since the engineered rifts began appearing. Kurama thinks there's a connection. The diplomatic complex's eastern wing housed smaller meeting rooms designed for discreet conversations between delegations. Security increased proportionally with privacy, a delicate balance in a world where threats could emerge from 3 different realities, worth of political grievances. Naruto and Temari navigated the security checkpoints with diplomatic credentials, hers genuine, his constructed by Konoha's intelligence division to withstand all but the most rigorous verification. The Raikage's delegation occupied a meeting room overlooking a traditional stone garden, one where each element had been carefully selected from all 3 original worlds. Symbolic unity, carefully maintained through constant attention. Much like the merged world itself. Yugito ni rose as they entered, dismissing her Cloud Village guards with a subtle gesture. Unlike Naruto, who concealed Hae's Jinchuriki status beneath layers of official cover, Yugito operated openly as both vessel and researcher, perhaps the only person in the merged world who studied tailed beasts' relationship with dimensional stability from both external and internal perspectives. Uzumaki. She greeted him with a formal nod. Your presence is both unexpected and fortuitous. Naruto returned the greeting equally formally. Among Jinchuriki, certain protocols transcended village allegiances, shared experiences creating understanding that outsiders could never fully comprehend. Text. Analysis complete. Subject. Yugito ni. Status. 2 Tails Jinchuriki, fully synchronized. Current condition. Stable but showing signs of dimensional stress. Notes. Has developed specialized techniques for Jinchuriki dimensional interface management. Potential valuable knowledge source. I was unaware of your attendance at the summit, Naruto replied, carefully neutral. As I was unaware of yours, Yugito countered with the faintest smile. Until approximately 3 hours ago, when Matabi became agitated by another tailed beast's proximity. Temari observed their exchange with diplomatic patience before speaking. All nay. To return to the Suna delegation shortly. Is this conversation relevant to summit security? Yugito's gaze shifted to Temari, assessing her clearance level. Ambassador Temari is authorized for SCL's information regarding dimensional stability, Naruto confirmed, answering the unspoken question. Then yes, this is directly relevant to summit security, Yugito stated, her posture relaxing marginally. All tailed beasts have been experiencing increased resonance effects near dimensional anomalies. My research suggests they may be intrinsically connected to the boundaries between original worlds. Connected how? Temari asked, her analytical mind immediately focusing on implications. The tailed beasts existed as a unified entity before being separated into 9 distinct beings, Yugito explained. That original connection persists across dimensional boundaries, which is why Jinchuriki can sense each other despite world origin differences. Naruto absorbed this information, correlating it with Kurama's recent behavior. The 9 Tails had become increasingly restless as the engineered rifts proliferated, often reacting before Naruto's shadow system detected nearby anomalies. The Boundary Collective knows this, he concluded, connecting disparate intelligence pieces. Their targeting of Jinchuriki for experimentation isn't coincidental. Precisely. Yugito activate. Secure holographic display. Technology from the solo leveling world modified for intelligence briefings. 7 confirmed abduction attempts against Jinchuriki or partial vessels in the past 3 months. 2 successful, though neither victim has been recovered. The display showed surveillance images of operations bearing collective signatures, shadow-infused operatives using hybrid technology. designed specifically for tailed beast suppression. They're not just researching separation, Naruto realized, ice settling in his stomach. They're researching how to weaponize tailed beasts during the separation process. Temari's sharp intake of breath confirmed she understood the catastrophic implications. 9 living weapons of mass destruction, deliberately destabilized during a forced dimensional fracturing. The casualty projections would exceed even their previous models, Yugito confirmed grimly. Perhaps approaching total extinction rather than their original 70% estimate. The room fell silent as this information settled. 3 individuals from different backgrounds united by understanding of a threat most couldn't even conceptualize. The summit, Naruto finally said. All 9 world leaders from the original ninja dimension will be present, plus 7 from other original worlds. If they're planning a demonstration, then this gathering represents both opportunity and target. Yugito finished. I've implemented countermeasures for Matabi's containment, but with multiple Jinchuriki potentially present. Wait, Temari interrupted. Multiple of official records only confirm your attendance among active Jinchuriki. Yugito and Naruto exchanged knowing glances, the subtle communication of those who shared an exclusive burden. Gaara, Temari whispered, understanding dawning. He's not just attending as cage. He's monitoring Shukaku's reactions to dimensional fluctuations. Your brother has been instrumental in my research, Yugito acknowledged. Though he contains only traces of the one tail after his restoration, that partial connection provides valuable comparative data. Temari's expression shifted from diplomatic poise to persona. Concern. The barrier between ambassador and sister momentarily transparent. Is he at risk? All Jinchuriki are at risk, Naruto answered honestly. But Gaara's partial connection offers some protection. The collective targets complete vessels preferentially. A soft chime interrupted their conversation, Temari's communication device signaling priority contact. Her eyes widened slightly as she read the message. The Imperial delegation has arrived early, she reported. General Esdeath is leading their security contingent personally. Naruto's system immediately updated. Text. Strategic alert. Subject. General Esdeath. Origin. Akame ga Kill Universe. Threat assessment. S rank extreme caution advised. Abilities. Advanced cryokinesis significantly enhanced post-confluence. Notes. Imperial military strategist. History of battlefield excellence and psychological warfare. Consider extreme threat if hostile. That's unexpected, Naruto said carefully, maintaining neutral phrasing despite internal alarm. The Empire typically sends political representatives rather than military commanders to diplomatic functions. The political landscape has shifted, Yugito observed. 3 assassina, Chion attempts against imperial leadership in the past month, all bearing revolutionary army signatures despite official peace treaties. False flag operations, Naruto suggested, connecting additional intelligence fragments. The collective creating instability by reigniting conflicts from original worlds. Temari checked her device again as additional messages arrived. The Imperial delegation is requesting expanded security permissions, including combat-ready Imperial arms users within the Central Conference area. Request denied, I assume? Yugito asked. Unfortunately, no. The coalition say. Security Council approved their request 4 minutes ago, citing extraordinary security circumstances. Temari's diplomatic mask slipped slightly, revealing genuine concern. They've established precedent for militarizing what should be a purely diplomatic space. Naruto processed this development, recalibrating threat assessments. Esdeath wouldn't leave the Imperial capital without specific objectives. Her battlefield presence always indicates strategic prioritization. You're familiar with the general? Temari asked, mild surprise coloring her tone. We've crossed paths during dimensional incursion responses. Naruto replied neutrally, omitting the complex details of those encounters. Her ice abilities make her uniquely effective against certain shadow manifestations. What he didn't mention were the disturbing parallels Esdeath herself had drawn between his shadow powers and her ice abilities, both representing consuming forces that granted tremendous power at potential cost to humanity. Their conversations had been philosophical as often as tactical, creating an unexpected intellectual connection despite fundamentally opposed worldviews. The summit's security parameters have been compromised, he concluded. Refocusing on immediate concerns, The collective now has potential operational access through Imperial channels. Assuming the Empire is compromised, Tamari countered professionally. We lack concrete evidence of collective infiltration within Imperial leadership. We lack evidence because the Empire's internal security is impenetrable to conventional intelligence gathering, Naruto replied. But pattern recognition suggests coordinated action rather than coincidental timing. Yugito nodded in agreement. The research data from your convoy intervention, did it include Imperial technical signatures? Yes. Hybrid shadow integration techniques using modified Imperial arms technology. Naruto's confirmation solidified their suspicions. Someone with high evil Imperial research access is cooperating with the collective. Tamari checked the time, her ambassador responsibilities requiring attention despite the security crisis. The opening reception begins in 30 minutes. All delegation heads are required to attend, including Gaara. Go, Naruto instructed. Maintain normal protocols. Your position grants access we can't achieve through covert channels. And you? She asked, professional tone masking personal concern. Yugito and I will coordinate Jinchuriki countermeasures while monitoring for dimensional anomalies. He managed a brief smile. A glimpse of his former self beneath the shadow operative's gravity. Besides, I'm terrible at diplomatic small talk. A ghost of answering smile touched Tamari's lips before her ambassador persona reasserted itself. I'll establish communication channels through secure coalition protocols. Authorization code Tempest 6 Delta. With a formal nod to them both, she departed, leaving Naruto and Yugito to address the Jinchuriki dimension of the crisis. Your shadow power, Yugito stated once they were alone, directness replacing diplomatic circumlocution. How is it interacting with the Nine Tails during dimensional fluctuations? Naruto appreciated her straightforward approach, a refreshing change from the careful distancing most maintained when referencing his dual nature. Unpredictably, he admitted, Kurama's chakra sometimes resonates with shadow energy near anomalies, creating feedback loops in my detection system. Other times, they operate as completely separate forces. As I feared, Yugito murmured. The inconsistency itself is consistent with my findings. The barriers between power systems are thinning alongside dimensional boundaries. She activated another holographic display, this one showing comparative energy readings from multiple Jinchuriki over time. The pattern was unmistakable, increasing volatility correlating precisely with recorded dimensional anomalies. We're becoming dimensional barometers, Naruto observed. Resonating with boundary instabilities whether we want or not. More than barometers, Yugito corrected grimly. Potential catalysts. My research suggests tailed beasts might actually accelerate separation under specific circumstances, particularly if deliberately destabilized. The implications chilled Naruto more than any ice technique. The collective isn't just studying Jinchuriki as potential victims of separation. They're researching us as tools to cause it, Yugito finished. Trigger sufficient instability in enough tailed beasts simultaneously. And they could force separation without their ritual sites. Naruto completed the horrifying picture. Using us as living dimensional breaching charges. Before they could explore this revelation further, Naruto's shadow system flared with warning. Text. Dimensional anomaly detected. Location. Conference complex sub-basement level 3. Stability. 17%, rapidly decreasing. C. Lassification. Engineered breach activation in progress. Warning. Immediate containment required. Simultaneously, Naruto felt Kurama stir within his seal, the Nine Tails responding to dimensional instability before conscious detection. We have an active breach, he reported tersely. Sub-basement level, directly beneath the main conference hall. Yugito's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed with focus. Matabi senses it too. The dimensional signature matches documented collective methodology. The summit isn't their target, Naruto realized, already moving toward the exit. It's their cover, with security focused on diplomatic protection. The perfect distraction for triggering a controlled dimensional reaction, Yugito concluded, falling into step beside him. Using the collected chakra signatures from so many powerful individuals to mask their activities. They moved with urgency but without obvious alarm, maintaining operational security while navigating toward the lower levels. Naruto deployed shadow clones disguised with subtle transformation techniques, positioning them strategically throughout the complex while coordinating through their shared consciousness. "My team should be notified," he stated as they entered a secure stairwell. "The hunter specializes in shadow anomaly containment. Communications are likely monitored within the complex," Yugito cautioned. Quote, "Any explicit warning might alert collective observers." Naruto nodded in understanding, then performed a modified summoning technique, one designed for communication rather than combat. A small shadow toad appeared, bearing distinctive markings that identified it as part of his personal contract. "Priority message for Hunter Cha and Intelligence Leone," he instructed the summon. "Code Obsidian Fracture. Coordinates match primary diplomatic structure." The toad acknowledged with a formal salute before vanishing, returning to the Shadow Realm briefly before rematerializing at the predetermined contact point where Hae-In and Leone maintained observation positions. As they descended toward the sub-basement levels, security checkpoints became increasingly sophisticated, combining traditional sealing methods with technology from all three original worlds. Naruto and Yugito navigated these barriers with high-level clearance codes, their Jinchuriki status granting access that even diplomats couldn't achieve. "Something's wrong," Yugito murmured as they approached the final security door. "The guard rotation is off schedule." Naruto had noticed the same discrepancy, subtle but telling evidence of security protocol disruption. "They've already penetrated this level." The final door required biometric verification combined with chakra signature analysis, theoretically impregnable to unauthorized access. Yet when they approached, the verification panel showed recent activity logs despite the absence of scheduled maintenance or security personnel. 17 minutes ago, Naruto observed, checking the access timestamp. Precisely when the Imperial delegation arrived. Creating a diversion to split security focus, Yugito concluded. Classic infiltration tactic. They completed the verification process legitimately. The heavy door sliding open to reveal a long corridor illuminated by emergency lighting only. The standard fixtures remained dark, another indication of deliberate systems manipulation. Naruto's shadow clone network reported simultaneously through their mental connection. The opening reception was proceeding normally above, with diplomatic niceties masking growing tensions between Imperial and Revolutionary Army representatives. No visible security breaches, but subtle positioning suggested prepared action rather than spontaneous conflict. 8 life signs ahead, Naruto reported, extending his sensory abilities. 5 human, 3 unclear. Shadow infused, but not fully manifested. Yugito closed her eyes briefly, communing with Matabi. "The 2 tails confirms your assessment. The non-human signatures appear similar to documented collective experiments, but with significant modifications." They advanced cautiously, chakra suppressed to minimum detection thresholds. The corridor opened into a large circular chamber originally designed for power distribution across the conference complex. Now it had been repurposed. Complex equipment arrays surrounded GA's central platform where dimensional energy visibly distorted the air. 5 figures worked methodically around the platform, each wearing specialized protective gear that concealed their identities. Their movements suggested professional training, military precision rather than scientific caution. "Imperial Special Forces," Yugito whispered, recognizing distinctive movement patterns. "Elite Assassination Division." The 3 non-human figures became visible as they shifted position, humanoid in basic structure but composed of swirling shadow matter interspersed with mechanical components. The chaotic entities from the convoy encounter. These appeared stable, with purposeful movements indicating intelligent control. Successful integration examples, Naruto realized with growing alarm. They've perfected the shadow-human technology hybrid formula. The dimensional distortion above the central platform pulsed rhythmically, expanding with each cycle. Monitoring equipment surrounding it displayed cascading data in formats from all 3 original worlds, evidence of comprehensive cross-dimensional research methodology. "They're using the summit's combined chakra emissions as camouflage," Yugito observed. "All those powerful individuals in one location create enough background energy to hide their activities from standard detection systems. But not from Jinchuriki," Naruto added. "Understanding their unique advantage, we need to disrupt the harmonic sequence before the breach stabilizes." Before they could formulate a tactical approach, alarm klaxons shattered the controlled environment, not from their location, but throughout the entire complex. Security breach in the main conference hall. Naruto reported as his shadow clone network transmitted critical information. Armed conflict between Imperial Guards and Coalition security forces. The 5 human operatives below immediately adjusted their equipment settings, accelerating the dimensional breach process. The shadow hybrids moved into defensive positions. They're forcing premature activation, Yugito realized. Using the security distraction to complete their objective ahead of schedule. The dimensional distortion expanded dramatically. Its energy signature shifting from controlled progression to chaotic acceleration. Warning signals flashed across monitoring equipment as containment parameters failed. We're out of time, Naruto stated, abandoning stealth for direct intervention. Shadow clone jutsu. A dozen clones materialized, immediately engaging the shadow hybrids while Naruto and Yugito targeted the equipment arrays. The 5 human operatives responded with military precision, deploying hybrid weapons that combined Imperial arms technology with shadow infusion capabilities. Yugito's transformation began instantly, a partial manifestation of Matabi's power coating her limbs in blue-black flames that moved like living extensions of her will. Unlike traditional Jinchuriki transformations, this technique represented years of refined control, allowing precise power application without sacrificing human consciousness. The primary harmonic regulator, she called, identifying a critical component while deflecting energy bolts from the Imperial operatives. Northeastern Quadrant. Naruto redirected 2 clones to target the indicated equipment while engaging the shadow hybrids directly. Unlike natural shadow entities, these constructs fought with tactical intelligence, coordinating attacks and adapting to conventional techniques. Text. Combat analysis. Targets. Enhanced shadow hybrids, military grade. Conventional tactics effectiveness, 32%. Recommended approach. Shadow Monarch authority override. Caution. Override attempt may alert collective controllers. The tactical recommendation made logical sense. As Shadow Monarch successor, Naruto theoretically could command any shadow entity. Yet experience had taught him that engineered shadows often contained countermeasures, specifically designed to resist his authority. Cover me, he instructed Yugito, gathering chakra for a specialized technique. I need 3 seconds for override preparation. Yugito moved fluidly into defensive position, her flame-wrapped limbs creating a protective barrier. Understood. 3 seconds, starting now. Naruto activated the Shadow Monarch's core authority, darkness flowing around Hae-In not as chaotic energy but as controlled purpose. Unlike his previous controlled manifestations, this technique required direct connection to the monarch's inheritance rather than its derived abilities. By sovereign right of succession, I command you, he intoned, voice resonating with otherworldly authority. Identify your true master. The shadow hybrids faltered momentarily, their movements becoming erratic as conflicting commands battled within their programming. One collapsed entirely, shadow matter dissipating as the override shattered its control parameters. The other 2 resisted, mechanical components glowing with countermeasure activation. Partial success, Naruto reported, shifting to conventional tactics as his clones continued their assault on the equipment arrays. They've installed specific immunities against Monarch authority. The breach is approaching critical stability, Yugito warned, her enhanced senses tracking the dimensional distortion's progression. Once it stabilizes, they'll be able to trigger controlled separation cascades throughout the complex. The 5 Imperial operatives abandoned direct combat, focusing entirely on accelerating their equipment's activation sequence. Their movements suggested contingency protocol activation, completing the mission regardless of personnel cost. They're initiating self-destruct after activation, Naruto realized, reading their tactical positioning. They don't intend to survive this operation. The dimensional breach suddenly expanded exponentially, far beyond projected parameters. Energy cascaded outward in visible waves, disrupting both equipment and combatants. The Imperial operatives were thrown backward, their protective gear failing against unanticipated power levels. Something's wrong, Yugito shouted above the mounting energy whine. This isn't a controlled breach anymore, it's becoming a full collapse point. Naruto's shadow system confirmed her assessment. Text. Critical alert. Dimensional collapse initiated. Stability. 3% and falling. Projected impact. Total structural failure, 500 meters radius. Estimated casualties: 4,700 plus including summit attendees. Containment status: beyond conventional methods. The shadow hybrids disintegrated as collapse energies overwhelmed their structural integrity. Equipment arrays shorted out in cascading failures, monitoring systems melting from dimensional radiation. The Imperial operatives attempted emergency protocols, their movements now desperate rather than precise. They've lost control of their own experiment, Naruto concluded. Shadow clones D. Isopatting as unstable energy tore through their chakra matrices. This wasn't their intended outcome. Yugito's flame barrier fluctuated as Matabi's chakra responded erratically to dimensional instability. The tailed beasts are resonating with the collapse. It's accelerating because we're here. Understanding crystallized with terrible clarity. Their presence as Jinchuriki wasn't coincidental but catalytic. The collective had designed their breach to draw power from nearby tailed beasts, using them as unwitting amplifiers. We need to remove ourselves from the equation, Naruto stated, mind racing through containment options. The breach might stabilize with reduced Jinchuriki presence. Negative, Yugito countered, her analytical mind processing alternatives even as her power fluctuated. Breach momentum has achieved self-sustaining criticality. Our absence won't reverse progression now. The Imperial operatives reached the same conclusion simultaneously, abandoning equipment adjustments for direct breach interaction. The lead figure removed specialized containment devices from equipment housing, approaching the dimensional distortion with evident suicidal intent. They're attempting manual containment, Yugito observed with reluctant admiration. Using their bodies as dimensional anchors to force normalization. It won't work, Naruto responded grimly. Human physiology can't withstand direct dimensional current, even with protective equipment. As if confirming his assessment, the first operative who contacted the breach energy convulsed violently before disintegrating. Molecular structure unraveling from dimensional exposure. The remaining operatives hesitated, their mission parameters clearly exceeding survival expectations. We need a non-biological containment medium, Yugito theorized rapidly. Something that can interact with dimensional energy without structural degradation. Naruto's mind connected several concepts simultaneously. Shadow matter's interdimensional properties. Tailed beast chakra's resilience across world boundaries, and the modified sealing techniques he developed since acquiring the Shadow Monarch's abilities. I can contain it, he stated. Certainty replacing tactical assessment. But I'll need your help. Understanding passed between them without detailed explanation, the unique communication of those who carried similar burdens. Yugito nodded once, precise and committed. Matabi will cooperate. Parameters: synchronized chakra shell, shadow matrix core, dimensional inversion sealed to collapse the breach back into itself. Naruto began forming complex hand signs, shadow energy coalescing around him in controlled patterns. Your flame containment provides the stability buffer while my shadow creates the dimensional counterweight. They moved with precision born from years of individual mastery, their techniques interlocking despite never having trained together. Yugito's blue-black flames expanded in a perfect sphere around the breach, containing its outward energy progression, while Naruto's shadow techniques created an inward pulling matrix that opposed the breach's natural expansion. The remaining Imperial operatives recognized their intent immediately, adjusting their own efforts to support rather than hinder the containment attempt. Whatever their mission parameters, preventing catastrophic collapse had obviously taken priority over specific objectives. Breach expansion halted, Yugito reported, maintaining precise chakra control despite escalating energy levels. But containment is temporary. We need closure, not just containment. Naruto reached deeper into his shadow abilities, accessing techniques that bridged his ninja training with the Shadow Monarch's interdimensional nature. Unlike conventional shadow manipulation, these methods treated darkness not as absence of light but as fundamental dimensional constant, a medium that existed across all worlds simultaneously. Dimensional sealing technique. Shadow convergence. He intoned, completing a sequence of 54 precise hand signs. The shadow matrix surrounding the breach began to contract, forcing dimensional energy inward rather than allowing continued expansion. Yugito's flame containment provided essential stability, preventing energy dispersion while the shadow seal compressed the breach point. As the technique progressed, Naruto felt Kurama stirring within. the Nine Tails responding to dimensional manipulation by offering its own chakra as reinforcement. Unlike their occasional conflicts over shadow usage, this R.E. presented perfect synchronization between all three aspects of Naruto's power: ninja techniques, tailed beast chakra, and shadow authority. The breach contracted visibly, dimensional distortion folding inward upon itself as the combined technique forced reality reconciliation. Equipment arrays shorted out completely as energy levels exceeded design parameters, plunging the chamber into darkness illuminated only by Yugito's flames and Naruto's shadow techniques. 30 seconds to complete collapse, Yugito estimated, maintaining precise control despite increasing pressure. Structural integrity failing throughout the complex. Above them, Naruto's shadow clone network reported escalating chaos, the dimensional disturbances affecting the entire conference complex as security forces battled. Both Imperial Guards and emerging shadow manifestations. Diplomatic protocols had dissolved into survival imperatives as evacuation procedures commenced. With a final surge of combined energy, the ACH imploded, dimensional forces collapsing inward until only a pinpoint of distortion remained. Naruto completed the sealing technique with a decisive gesture, shadow matter solidifying around the remnant to create permanent containment. Breach contained, he confirmed as diagnostic systems verified dimensional normalization. Residual energy dispersing through controlled channels. Yugito maintained her flame containment for 10 additional seconds before gradually reducing power, ensuring complete stability before disengaging. The blue-black fires receded into her skin, leaving her momentarily exhausted but conscious. The summit, she asked, prioritizing crisis assessment over personal recovery. Total evacuation in progress, Naruto reported, receiving updates through his clone network. 17 confirmed casualties, 40+ injured, shadow manifestations throughout upper levels, but diminishing as the breach stabilizes. The surviving Imperial operatives had fallen back to defensive positions. Their mission clearly compromised beyond recovery. Though armed, they made no aggressive movements, their attention focused on communication devices as they presumably awaited extraction orders. "Your interference was unexpected," their leader finally stated, voice distorted through damaged equipment. The dimensional specialists insisted Jinchuriki presence would enhance controlled separation, not collapse the entire matrix. "Your specialists miscalculated," Yugito replied coldly. Tailed beast energy isn't a tool for convenient manipulation. Evidently, the operative's T1 conveyed professional reassessment rather than hostility. "This operation is clearly compromised. We have no further objectives here." Naruto maintained vigilant readiness despite their apparent withdrawal. "The collective separation agenda ends now. Your experimental data is flawed, your methodologies catastrophically unsound." The collective. The operative tilted their head slightly, a gesture suggesting genuine confusion. "Our operation serves Imperial strategic interests exclusively. These separation techniques were developed by Imperial research divisions for controlled territory expansion." This revelation added disturbing new dimensions to an already complex situation. Either the operative was lying to distance the Empire from collective association, or multiple organizations were independently pursuing dimensional separation technologies for different purposes. "Your controlled territory expansion would have killed thousands today," Yugito stated, moral certainty transcending political calculation. "Including your own personnel. Acceptable operational parameters given strategic objectives," the operative replied mechanically. Though equipment failure exceeded projected contingencies. Before Naruto could respond, his shadow system detected new presences approaching rapidly from above, reinforcements arriving through emergency access routes. Unlike the chaotic evacuation patterns elsewhere in the complex, these movements indicated coordinated military precision. Text. Identification. Multiple signatures. Primary threat. S-Class Combat Specialist Empire. Identity. General Esdeath. Secondary units. Imperial Guard Elite Division. Tactical assessment. Extreme caution advised. "We have company," he warned Yugito, shifting position to maintain tactical advantage. Imperial Military, highest echelon. Quote, "The chamber's emergency access portal opened with controlled precision, admitting a single figure who radiated authority even before becoming fully visible. General Esdeath entered unhurriedly, surveying the devastation with clinical detachment before focusing on the survivors. Unlike traditional imperial military attire, her uniform had evolved since the confluence, practical combat design incorporating elements from all three worlds while maintaining distinctive imperial insignia. The temperature dropped noticeably with her arrival, frost patterns forming on nearby surfaces through unconscious manifestation of her ice abilities. General, the lead operative acknowledged with formal salute despite evident injuries. Operation status: critical failure. Containment protocols implemented by external assets. Esdeath's gaze shifted between Naruto and Yugito, assessing them not as obstacles but as tactical factors. Since the confluence, her legenda, Rai combat abilities had only increased, her ice powers evolving beyond simple cryokinesis into fundamental thermodynamic manipulation. Uzumaki, she acknowledged with cool professionalism. Your intervention pattern remains predictably heroic, always appearing precisely where chaos manifests. General Esdeath, Naruto returned evenly. Your operatives nearly collapsed a dimensional boundary beneath the diplomatic summit that extends beyond military operation into war crime territory. A smile touched her lips, not warm but appreciative, like a predator recognizing worthy opposition. Bold accusation from Konoha's shadow specialist. Your own activities hardly conform to recognized international protocols. My activities don't endanger civilians, Naruto countered, maintaining focused calm despite the dangerous woman before him. Today's operation experienced unexpected complications, Esdeath replied, dismissing catastrophic failure with casual indifference. Scientific progress often requires experimental setbacks. Yugito stepped forward slightly, her diplomatic status temporarily overshadowed by Jinchuriki authority. This setback would have killed thousands, including high-level diplomats from all three original worlds. The political consequences would have been catastrophic. Politics, Esdeath pronounced the word with evident disdain. A poor substitute for strength. The Empire requires territorial expansion to sustain its economic model. Dimensional boundary adjustment represents efficient acquisition methodology. Her candid admission confirmed suspicions about imperial motives while raising disturbing questions about knowledge sharing between the Empire and the Boundary Collective. The technological similarities suggested either collaboration or espionage, neither option particularly reassuring. Your remaining operatives require medical attention, Naruto observed, shifting toward practical concerns rather than ideological debates. And this facility remains structurally compromised. I suggest prioritizing evacuation over territorial philosophy. Esdeath studied him with renewed interest, perhaps surprised by pragmatic focus rather than moral condemnation. Your shadow abilities have evolved since our last encounter. More controlled, less reliant on brute force application. The personal observation amidst crisis response revealed something about priorities. Professional assessment continuously operating regardless of circumstances. Naruto had encountered this aspect of her personality during previous joint operations against shadow incursions, where her tactical brilliance had proven as formidable as her combat abilities. The entire complex is being evacuated, Yugito interjected, redirecting conversation toward immediate concerns. Coalition security forces will secure this level shortly. Your presence here raises diplomatic complications better avoided. Indeed, Esdeath signaled to previously unseen Imperial guards, who moved efficiently to assist their injured comrades. This particular research avenue appears flawed regardless. Adaptation is essential to effective strategy. As her forces organized withdrawal, Esdeath approached Naruto directly, close enough for private conversation while maintaining professional distance. The temperature around them dropped further, her ice aura responding to proximity. Your containment technique was impressive, she stated quietly, particularly the shadow dimension interface mechanics. Few individuals understand cross-dimensional manipulation sufficiently to attempt such methods. Necessity drives innovation, Naruto replied neutrally, though inwardly surprised by technical assessment rather than combat evaluation. Indeed, her intense blue eyes studied him with disconcerting focus. The Empire maintains research divisions dedicated to dimensional boundary analysis. Your expertise would be valued considerably. The recruitment attempt was as unexpected as it was inappropriate given circumstances. I'm loyal to Konoha, Loyalty to obsolete structures represents wasted potential, Esdeath countered with calm certainty. The confluence demonstrated original world institutions will ultimately dissolve. Forward-thinking individuals should position themselves accordingly. Before Naruto could respond, the facility's structural integrity warning systems activated, Mage from dimensional energy exposure finally compromising critical support systems. Ceiling segments began collapsing as power fluctuations triggered cascading systems failures throughout the level. This conversation will continue later, Esdeath stated with absolute confidence, untroubled by the disintegrating environment. My forces will withdraw through eastern access routes. I suggest alternative evacuation paths to avoid unnecessary confrontation. With a final assessing glance at both Naruto and Yugito, she departed with characteristic efficiency, her troops moving in perfect coordination despite deteriorating conditions. Within moments, they had disappeared through maintenance corridors, leaving only destruction evidence of their presence. She's dangerously rational, Yugito observed once they were alone. Most imperial leadership maintains ideological justifications for their actions. She simply pursues power optimization with perfect clarity, which makes her both more predictable and more dangerous. Naruto agreed, already plotting evacuation routes through his shadow clone network. Her interest in dimensional research isn't ideological but practical, another tool for empire expansion. They moved quickly through destabilizing corridors, avoiding structural collapse points identified through Naruto's shadow sensing abilities. Throughout the complex, emergency protocols had transitioned from evacuation to damage control, with specialized teams addressing both physical destruction and lingering dimensional instability. As they reached safer levels, Naruto received confirmation through his clone network that both Hae-In and Leone had secured positions within the complex, currently assisting with shadow manifestation containment in the main conference areas. My teammates have established position upstairs, he informed Yugito. They're experienced with shadow entity neutralization. The hunter from your previous operation? Yugito asked as they navigated toward central evacuation routes. Her reputation among Jinchuriki researchers is considerable. She's documented more shadow entity variants than any other specialist. Her abilities complement mine, Naruto acknowledged, particularly regarding shadow entity identification and containment. They emerged into organized chaos. The main conference level transformed from diplomatic venue to emergency response center. Medical teams treated injured dignitaries while security forces maintained perimeter containment. Shadow manifestations had been corralled into designated zones, contained by specialized barrier techniques. Naruto immediately located Hae-In through his shadow sense, finding her efficiently neutralizing a cluster of minor shadow entities near the eastern delegation chambers. Her sword techniques had evolved since their convoy operation, each movement precisely calibrated for maximum efficiency against specific entity types. Leone operated nearby, her beast transformation Yuli activated as she coordinated civilian evacuation while simultaneously gathering intelligence through her enhanced senses. Unlike their previous mission, she displayed no playful affectations, only professional focus appropriate to crisis response. Naruto. Temari's voice carried across the chamber as she approached from the diplomatic coordination center. Despite the chaos, she maintained ambassador composure. Though subtle indicators revealed genuine concern beneath professional demeanor. Situation report. Dimensional breach contained. Imperial operation neutralized, he summarized efficiently. Structural damage throughout sub-basement levels, shadow manifestations decreasing as boundary stability returns to normal parameters. Temari processed this information with diplomatic precision. Casualties. 17 confirmed, 43 requiring medical attention, Yugito reported. Primarily security personnel and support staff. Most diplomats were evacuated before significant exposure. Gaara. Secure with Konkuro in the western safe zone, Temari confirmed, visible relief briefly softening her professional mask. His sand techniques proved exceptionally effective against shadow manifestations. Naruto's shadow clone network updated simultaneously. Leone had discovered documentation among injured Imperial personnel suggesting operational parameters beyond simple dimensional research. Intelligence requiring immediate secure analysis rather than open discussion. We need secure debriefing space, he stated, indicating Hae-In and Leone with subtle gestures. My M has recovered intelligence materials requiring coalition security review. Tamari understood immediately. Ambassador training recognizing classified communication needs. The Cage's delegation H has established secure communications in Western Quadrant emergency facilities. Full privacy protocols, limited access roster. Perfect. Yugito should join us. Her research provides essential context. As they navigated toward the secure location, passing emergency responders and diplomatic security details, Naruto analyzed the day's events with growing concern. The Imperial operation suggested technological parallels with collective research while pursuing apparently different strategic objectives, competition rather than collaboration in dimensional boundary manipulation. This complicated already challenging assessment metrics. One adversary pursuing catastrophic world separation represented significant threat, multiple independent entities developing similar technologies for different poses multiplied both complexity and danger. Hae-In joined them as they passed her position, shadow entities neutralized and containment complete. Manufactured manifestations, she reported without preamble. Factory produced rather than natural dimensional leakage. Designed for maximum psychological impact rather than physical damage. Terror weapons, Naruto concluded grimly. Creating chaos to mask their primary operation. Leone appeared moments later, having completed civilian evacuation assistance. Imperial communication logs indicate planned synchronization with other facilities. T.S. wasn't isolated research, it's coordinated testing across multiple locations. They reached the secure debriefing room to find Gaara already present, his expression characteristically composed despite surrounding crisis. As Cage, his diplomatic responsibilities remained paramount, yet his presence here rather than with other world leaders indicated prioritization of security concerns over political protocols. Brother, Tamari acknowledged formally before the room's privacy seals activated. Once secured, her tone softened slightly. Are you all right? Functional. Gaara replied simply. Fukaku's residual connection provided early warning of dimensional instability. Useful tactical advantage. The room's security systems completed activation, triple-layered protection incorporating technologies and techniques from all three original worlds. Only then did Leone produce the recovered documentation, spreading Imperial research materials across the conference table. Operation Frost Fracture, she announced, indicating highlighted sections. Empire-sponsored dimensional boundary testing program with 14 active research sites across merged territories. Today's event wasn't a terrorist attack or collective operation, it was a scheduled test that experienced catastrophic parameter exceedance. Hae-In examined the technical specifications with professional assessment. These ADO integration protocols match collective methodologies exactly. Either they're collaborating or one is stealing research from the other. Or they share common leadership, Naruto suggested, connecting disparate intelligence fragments. Multiple operational fronts pursuing parallel development tracks. Yugito focused on Jinchuriki-relevant sections. Their models predicted tailed beast chakra would enhance controlled separation. Instead, it triggered cascade failure because their fundamental understanding of Biju dimensional properties is flawed. Intentionally flawed, Gaara added quietly. These equations contain deliberate calculation errors, designed to produce specific failures rather than successful outcomes. The implications settled heavily across the room. Someone within IAL research divisions was deliberately sabotaging dimensional boundary experiments, creating catastrophic failures rather than controlled results. The question becomes whether Empire leadership authorized the sabotage, or whether someone is manipulating their research program, Tamari stated, diplomatic analysis identifying core uncertainty. Esdeath's reaction suggests the latter, Naruto offered, recalling the general's controlled fury upon witnessing experimental failure. Her assessment appeared genuinely surprised by system collapse. Leone tapped another document section. Research OVE, our site assigned to Scientific Division 7, specializing in cross-dimensional applications under Director Stylish. Stylish, Naruto repeated, the name triggering recognition. Leone, your intelligence. NCE regarding the architect, the collective's leader potentially being a merged version of Orochimaru and an imperial scientist. Dr. Stylish, Leone confirmed grimly. Former imperial arms develope, are with specialization in human experimentation. His methods and research interests parallel Orochimaru's almost exactly. The connection crystallized with disturbing clarity. He's playing both sides, advancing collective separation agenda while simultaneously directing imperial boundary research toward deliberate failures. Creating diplomatic incidents while gathering experimental data, Hae-In concluded. Efficient methodology for someone pursuing multiple objectives simultaneously. Gaara studied the documentation with focused intensity. These materials must reach Coalition Central Intelligence immediately. If Imperial leadership remains unaware of internal sabotage, diplomatic channels may prevent further catastrophic testing. And if they are aware? Temari questioned pragmatically. Then we've confirmed active Empire collaboration with separation forces, Naruto responded. Either outcome advances our understanding of threat parameters. As they organized materials for secure transmission, Naruto received shadow system notifications of significant movement patterns throughout the complex. Emergency protocols transitioning to investigation phase as coalition security forces established incident containment. We should separate, he advised, aware that their gathered presence might attract unwanted attention. Maintain normal operational patterns while intelligence assessment proceeds through secure channels. Gaara nodded in agreement. The diplomatic summit will reconvene at secondary location within 48 hours. Security protocols will be significantly enhanced. I'll coordinate with the Korean Hunters Association regarding shadow manifestation containment, Hae-In offered. Their specialized teams were already en route following our convoy operation intelligence. My network can track Imperial movement patterns, Leone added. Particularly Esdeath's activities following today's failure. Temari resumed full ambassador demeanor. I'll manage diplomatic communication channels. Ensure our intelligence reaches appropriate authorities without compromising sources. As they prepared to depart, Yugito approached Naruto directly. A moment before you leave. The others tactfully created conversational distance, allowing private communication while maintaining security protocols. The Nine Tails responded differently than Matabi during containment, Yugito observed quietly. More synchronized with your shadow abilities, less resistance to dimensional manipulation. Naruto had noticed the same distinction. Kurama and the shadow power have developed accommodation patterns since my transformation. Not always harmonious, but increasingly coordinated during crisis response. That synchronization may prove crucial if dimensional instability continues increasing, Yugito stated. My research facility in Cloud Territory has developed monitoring systems specifically calibrated for Jinchuriki dimensional interactions. Your unique configurate ion would provide invaluable comparative data. The invitation carried both research justification and personal concern, professional interest in his unique condition balanced with genuine worry about long-term stability. I'll coordinate with Konoha regarding research exchange protocols, Naruto agreed, recognizing the value beyond personal considerations. Though current operational parameters may delay formal participation, Yugito offered a small, genuine smile, rare from the typically reserved Jinchuriki. The invitation remains open regardless of timing. Some questions transcend village boundaries or dimensional origins. With operational plans established, the group dispersed through separate exit routes, maintaining security through distribution rather than concentration. Naruto Deeple, OYED additional shadow clones to monitor key complex areas while coordinating with Hae-In and Leone through predetermined communication protocols. As he navigated emergency response zones toward extraction points, Naruto encountered an unexpected presence in a temporarily secured corridor, General Esdeath, apparently waiting specifically for him. Unlike their underground confrontation, she now stood alone, her forces presumably withdrawn to Imperial territory. A moment of your time, Uzumaki, she requested with characteristic directness. Private conversation, professionally relevant. Naruto maintained cautious readiness while assessing her body language. No immediate combat intention evident, though with Esdeath, peaceful appearance often preceded devastating action. 5 minutes, he agreed, activating subtle privacy barriers through shadow techniques. Though I doubt we'll resolve fundamental philosophical differences in that timeframe. Something approximating amusement flickered across her features, appreciation for directness rather than diplomatic evasion. Philosophical alignment is unnecessary for practical cooperation. Our respective abilities complement effectively against certain threat categories, such as shadow manifestations, Naruto acknowledged, referencing their previous joint operations. Though today's incident suggests imperial policy now includes creating such manifestations rather than containing them. Policy adjustments occur as strategic requirements evolve, Esdeath replied without apology. Though today's experimental parameters clearly contain fundamental flaws requiring reassessment. She moved closer, her natural temperature manipulation creating frost patterns along the corridor walls. Unlike many who used power as intimidation, Esdeath's abilities manifested as extension of self rather than deliberate display, ice responding to her presence as naturally as shadow responded to Naruto's. Scientific Division 7 has been compromised, she stated with sudden directness. Today's failure exhibited deliberate sabotage characteristics rather than experimental error margins. Naruto maintained neutral expression despite internal surprise at her candor. Empire internal security seems beyond my operational concerns. It extends beyond imperial boundaries, Esdeath countered. Similar sabotage patterns have been identified in our Evolutionary Army research divisions and neutral territory scientific collaborations. Someone is deliberately undermining all-dimensional boundary research regardless of originating faction. This ally, GNED with their emerging understanding of the architect's dual identity operations, though Naruto revealed nothing of their intelligence assessment. Your point. Effective counter-strategy requires specialized capabilities. Esdeath continued, her gaze intensely focused. Your shadow-dimensional interface expertise represents unique operational advantage unavailable through conventional military resources. You're proposing cooperation, Naruto realized, understanding crystallizing. Joint operations against whoever is sabotaging dimensional research. Pragmatic alliance based on complementary capabilities. She corrected precisely. My ice techniques demonstrate particular effectiveness against shadow entities when properly applied. Your abilities provide detection and containment advantages unavailable through other means. Quote, the proposal carried both obvious strategic logic and potentially hidden agendas. Esdeath's reputation for brilliant tactical assessment was matched only by her unwavering dedication to empire supremacy. Any cooperation would advance imperial interests first, all other considerations secondary. I operate under Konoha authority, Naruto replied neutrally. Cross-faction operations require formal approval through established channels. Bureaucratic constraints waste critical response time, Esdeath dismissed with characteristic impatience. The saboteur demonstrates sophisticated understanding of dimensional mechanics across all three original world paradigms. Delayed response guarantees further catastrophic incidents. Her assessment aligned with Naruto's own concerns, though her proposed methodology differed significantly. Where coalition approach emphasized investigation and containment, imperial strategy invariably prioritized decisive elim. I-nation regardless of collateral consequences. I'll convey your concerns through appropriate channels, Naruto stated diplomatically. Coordinated response benefits all factions assuming operational parameters respect civilian safety protocols. Esdeath studied him with unnerving intensity, her gaze suggesting she perceived more than his careful phrasing revealed. Your shadow abilities continue developing interesting adaptations. The containment technique you employed today incorporated principles from multiple dimensional paradigms simultaneously. The observation demonstrated both her Tekken, ICAL knowledge and combat assessment capabilities. Few individuals could analyze complex techniques during crisis response with such precision. Necessity drives innovation, Naruto replied, deliberate. Lee echoing his earlier response while revealing nothing substantial. Indeed, Esdeath stepped closer, winter-cold aura intensifying around her. The saboteur possesses similar adaptive capacity, rating methodologies from different world systems into hybrid applications. Identifying such individuals requires comparable perspective. Her proximity activated Naruto's shadow system automatically. Text. Proximity alert. S-rank combatant. Subject. General Esdeath. Current status. Non-hostile assessment mode. Caution. Significant power suppression detected. 85% reserves inactive. Recommendation. Maintain neutral engagement. Avoid provocation. Your 5 minutes have elapsed, Naruto observed, maintaining professional detachment despite increasing tension. Emergency protocols require my presence elsewhere. Esdeath smiled slightly, the expression of a predator acknowledging worthy prey rather than genuine warmth. Consider my proposal, Uzumaki. When the next incident occurs, and it will occur, formal response protocols will prove insufficiently adaptive. When that moment arrives, pragmatic cooperation becomes necessity rather than option. She turned to leave, then paused momentarily. Your shadow extraction technique, its applications extend beyond combat utility. The right subjects, properly processed, could provide intelligence advantages currently unavailable to either faction. With that disturbing observation, she departed, frost patterns lingering on corridor surfaces as physical evidence of her presence long after she'd disappeared from view. Naruto remained momentarily motionless, processing both explicit proposal and implied threats contained within their conversation. Esdeath's interest in his shadow techniques suggested dangerous applications he deliberately avoided exploring, using extraction not just for combat allies but for intelligence gathering from defeated enemies. The ethical boundaries he maintained regarding shadow power usage clearly didn't constrain Esdeath's tactical calculations. Her perspective viewed all abilities simply as tools for objective achievement, moral considerations entirely secondary to efficiency metrics. As emergency protocols continued throughout the complex, Naruto reconnected with his shadow clone network, gathering intelligence while planning rendezvous with Hae-In and Leone at their predetermined extraction point. Today's events had confirmed collective infiltration extended beyond initial estimates, potentially including Empire leadership through Stylish's scientific division. The diplomatic summit had failed spectacularly, yet ironically achieved its fundamental purpose, bringing different world factions together, though through crisis response rather than planned cooperation. The dimensional incident had revealed vulnerabilities while simultaneously demonstrating that effective response required cross-faction coordination. As Naruto navigated toward extraction, his shadow system detected Tamari-ku, RDI-nating diplomatic evacuations with remarkable efficiency, her wind techniques creating safe corridors through damaged sectors while her political acumen managed inter-faction tensions. Her capabilities had evolved significantly since their younger days, technical skill matched with diplomatic precision that few could equal. He adjusted course slightly, assisting her evacuation efforts before departure. Cooperation transcending faction boundaries represented their best defense against those seeking to tear their merged world apart, whether through collective separation ideology or imperial conquest methodology. The Frost and Tempest had revealed both dangers and opportunities. Now they would gather their strength for the challenges ahead. Chapter 3. Shadows Ascending. Rain fell in Shimmerin curtains across the contested territories, not natural precipitation but dimensional runoff, each droplet containing microscopic fragments of all three original worlds. Buildings throughout the A-band. One settlement shimmered with prismatic halos as water traced their contours, creating an ethereal landscape of refracted light and shifting shadows. From their concealed position in what had once been a clock tower, Naruto observed the Boundary Collective's compound through specialized binoculars. Unlike conventional observation tools, these incorporated technology from all three worlds, chakra-sensitive lenses, imperial optical enhancements, and hunter-grade shadow detection filters. Surveillance zone extends approximately 300 meters beyond visible perimeter, he reported, tracking automated sentinel movements through security patterns, hybrid detection systems, chakra sensors, thermal imaging, and shadow resonance arrays. Leone whistled softly from her position near the broken window. Someone's not interested in unexpected visitors. Those resonance arrays would detect me even in full stealth transformation. They're specifically calibrated for shadow detection, Hae-In observed from beside Naruto. Her hunter senses providing additional information beyond mechanical reconnaissance. The patterns suggest awareness of both natural manifestations and controlled shadow techniques. 7 days had passed since the disaster at Tetsu City. 7 days of relentless investigation, following intelligence threads across dimensional boundary zones until locating this Hae-In facility, a former mining community repurposed by the collective as their central research installation. Located in a dimensional convergence point where all three original worlds had particularly thin boundaries. The compound represented the culmination of their separation research. Text. Perimeter analysis complete. Security systems. Military grade, multi-dimensional. Personnel count. Approximately 83 mixed origins. Shadow entity signatures. 27 controlled manifestations. Probability of undetected infiltration. 17.3%. Conventional approach is suicide, Naruto concluded, lowering the binoculars. Even with shadow concealment techniques, their detection arrays would register my presence within seconds. Then we don't use conventional approaches, Leonie replied with characteristic adaptability. Her beast transformation had been modified since Tetsu City, more subtle physical changes allowing enhanced capabilities without obvious visual indicators. Only her slightly elongated canine and golden flecked eyes revealed her activated state. The dimensional boundary fluctuations provide potential access, Yugito suggested, joining their observation position. Her arrival 3 days earlier had transformed their operation from tactical infiltration to comprehensive strategic response. The facility experiences micro-rifts during harmonic convergence cycles, scheduled to begin approximately 40 minutes from now. Tamari unfurled a specialized map across the planning table behind them, a dimensional topography chart showing boundary stability metrics throughout the region. As Na's representative to the Emergency Response Coalition formed after the summit disaster, she brought both political authority and tactical expertise to their operation. The convergence creates 17 potential entry vectors. She demonstrated, indicating shifting patterns across the display. Most last only seconds, but this one, she tapped a location near the facility's eastern boundary. Stabilizes for approximately 90 seconds due to natural harmonic resonance with the underlying geological formation. Naruto studied the indicated location, correlating with his own shadow system's analytical data. That position is directly monitored by 2 sentinel platforms and a fixed detection array. Which is why we create a diversion at maximum distance from our actual insertion point, Tamari continued. Indicating the opposite boundary, a controlled dimensional disturbance would trigger their security protocols, drawing focus and resources away from our intended entry vector. I can create that disturbance, Yugito offered. Matabi's chakra signature mimics natural dimensional fluctuations when properly modulated. Their sensors would register it as environmental anomaly rather than deliberate intrusion. That leaves you exposed without backup, Naruto observed, concern evident despite tactical framing. I don't require backup for diversion operations, Yugito replied with calm confidence. My extraction path utilizes underground access routes mapped during preliminary reconnaissance. Low-risk profile assuming standard response protocols. Their planning reflected hard-earned efficiency. 5 individuals with complementary abilities who had evolved from reluctant allies into coordinated operational unit through shared purpose and accumulated trust. What had begun as Naruto's solo mission now incorporated specialists whose combined capabilities exceeded what any could accomplish individually. Once inside, we face 3 primary objectives, he continued, active. Aiding a holographic facility schematic based on intelligence gathered from multiple sources. First, secure verification of the architect's identity and collective leadership structure. My priority, Leonie confirmed. Her intelligence gathering specialization making her ideal for this objective. Their central data core should contain command protocols and authorization hierarchies. Second, I'd NTIFY and neutralize their dimensional separation technology, Naruto continued. Particularly any devices calibrated for mass deployment rather than localized testing. Hunter responsibility, Hae-In stated with professional certainty. Shadow-based technology falls under my jurisdiction regardless of which original world claims territorial authority. Third, locate and extract any research subjects being held against their will. Naruto completed. Intelligence suggests ongoing human experimentation focusing on shadow integration protocols and Jinchuriki-related dimensional properties. My focus, Yugito added after completing her diversion planning. Tailed Beast Chakra provides unique advantages in identifying containment systems designed for Jinchuriki subjects. Tamari studied the assembled team with measured assessment. Coalition authorization extends to intelligence gathering and civilian extraction only. Neutralization of collective leadership requires explicit Security Council approval, which we won't receive given Council compromise, Naruto noted practically. Our operational parameters acknowledge political limitations while recognizing tactical necessities. If PP opportunity for architect neutralization presents itself, Then we evaluate circumstances and make field determinations, Tamari concluded diplomatically. Official authorization can follow successful outcome documentation. The pragmatic approach reflected their shared understanding of merged world politics. Formal structures maintained civilizational stability while operational realities samati. Mies required flexibility that bureaucracy couldn't accommodate. They operated in the necessary spaces between official sanction and essential action. Convergence begins in 32 minutes, Yugito noted. Checking specialized equipment calibrated for dimensional fluctuation tracking. Final preparation protocols should commence immediately. As they transition to equipment checks and communication system verification, Naruto created several shadow clones to establish perimeter security around their staging location. Though they'd detected no surveillance during their approach, the collective's intelligence gathering capabilities had repeatedly demonstrated unexpected sophistication. You're concerned about something beyond standard operational parameters, Hae-In observed quietly as Hae verified shadow dampening equipment designed to minimize detection signatures. Her perception had proven remarkably accurate regarding his emotional states despite initial distrust of his shadow abilities. Danzo's involvement remains unconfirmed, Naruto replied, keeping his voice low despite privacy measures. Intelligence suggests root operatives have been observed near collective facilities. But purpose and relationship structure remain unclear. You believe he's manipulating the collective rather than supporting their separation agenda. Danzo's strategies always incorporate multiple contingencies serving his ultimate objective. Konoha supremacy, Naruto explained, remembering years of carefully documented root operations since the confluence. If he's involved with dimensional separation research, he's identified advantage potential beyond what the collective leadership recognizes. Hae-In considered this assessment with characteristic thoroughness. The Hunters Association, Intelligence Division flagged similar concerns regarding several operations attributed to collective assets. Targeting parameters suggested knowledge prioritization over casualty maximization, informa. Chion gathering rather than terrorist methodology. Their conversation paused as Tamari approached, her equipment checks completed with characteristic efficiency. Unlike her diplomatic appearance at the summit, she now wore specialized combat gear designed for wind technique optimization while maintaining maneuverability in restricted environments. The Coalition Council is fragmenting, she reported, sharing intelligence beyond their immediate tactical concerns. The summit disaster accelerated existing divisions between original world factions. 7 council members have officially withdrawn from unified response protocols, citing security reassessment necessities. Political cover for independent action, Naruto translated. They're preparing contingency plans assuming worst-case separation scenarios. Precisely. Temari's expression revealed controlled concern beneath professional composure. Which makes our operation here potentially the last coordinated multi-faction response before complete coalition collapse. The implications settled heavily across their planning space, their mission representing perhaps final opportunity for unified action against separation threats BEF. Or political fragmentation rendered coordinated response impossible. Beyond tactical objectives, they carried responsibility for demonstrating multi-world cooperation effectiveness against existential threats. 18 minutes to convergence, Yugito announced, breaking momentary contemplation with operational focus. Diversion preparations complete. Extraction route verification confirmed. Leonie returned from perimeter assessment. Her enhanced senses having detected subtle changes in security patterns around the facility. They've modified patrol schedules since yesterday's observation. Rotation intervals decreased by approximately 12%. They're expecting something. Internal operational advancement or external threat awareness? Tamari questioned immediately. Impossible to determine from movement patterns alone. Leonie acknowledged. But equipment deployment suggests defensive posture enhancement rather than preparation for offensive action. They're strengthening their position without mobilizing for external operations. This information required tactical recalibration. Additional defensive measures suggest timeline acceleration, Naruto assessed. They're either approaching operational culmination or responding to perceived security compromise. Either scenario necessitates immediate action, Yugito concluded. Delayed response risks missing critical intervention opportunity. Agreement passed silently between them, 5 individuals from different backgrounds united by recognition of necessity transcending factional considerations. Whatever their original motivations for involvement, shared purpose now defined their operational commitment. Convergence preparations, Naruto directed, their planning phase transitioning to active implementation. Standard communication protocols, emergency extraction coordinates established, operational independence within coordinated framework. They moved with practiced efficiency, each focusing on specialized preparations while maintaining situational awareness of collective progress. Naruto activated shadow dampening seals designed to minimize his power's dimensional resonance signature, technology developed through collaboration between ninja seal masters and hunter containment specialists. Yugito prepared dimensional modulation equipment that would allow precise control of Matabi's chakra emissions during her diversion operation. The specialized technology represented innovative synthesis between tailed beast containment methods and imperial energy projection systems. Leonie completed final adjustments to her transformation parameters, balancing enhanced sensory capabilities against detection profile minimization. Her beast abilities had evolved significantly since beginning shadow manifestation operations, incorporating adaptive camouflage techniques previously impossible within her original world's power system. Hae-In methodically verified her shadow containment equipment, specialized 2LS designed specifically for neutralizing artificial shadow entities and disrupting dimensional manipulation technology. Her expertise provided essential capabilities against the collective's core research applications. Tamari coordinated their tactical approach through detailed mapping systems, establishing primary and secondary movement corridors based on dimensional stability projections. Her analytical precision complemented Naruto's intuitive shadow sensing, creating comprehensive ___. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.